Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and The Fool.
There's spoilers in this one as a warning for for Tears of the Kingdom up to meeting Pyrrha. Before we begin, I want to ask you about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay, so I'll tell you where I got to. Basically, I got the hang glider.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about as far as I got. I assume you got that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a little bit further than that.
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing I did once I got off the Sky Islands was I jumped into the big hole in the ground, and then I died. I don't remember what my plan was for landing. Oh, I was hoping I'd find water.
It took me so long to jump down those. I thought they were just death pits which evil hands came out of. I had no idea, because there's some quests that basically lead you to go into them, but I didn't do any of this because I'm just going to explore around Hyrule. So I just walked around, did a few dungeons, did a few things, and I saw NPCs staring down one of those holes. And it's like, expeditions that be going down there. It's like, wait, you can go down into these holes?
Yeah, so what I did was I jumped down the hole.
Yeah.
And as I was falling, I was shooting arrows with light bulbs attached to them.
Yeah.
And lighting the path as I went down looking for water. And I did it 4 or 5 times before I gave up.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, without spoilers, as much as you can.
Yeah.
I was having some problems with Tears of the Kingdom. And I was wondering if it gets better or I was doing something wrong. So I'll outline the issues.
All right.
So to start with, the fact... Well, I just want to start with this first thought. The fact that Tears of the Kingdom runs on the Switch means every other game developer should just be fired.
Yes.
I had a game on the Switch. I deleted it after playing about an hour of Tears of the Kingdom.
Really?
Because... So this game is called Warlock of Firetop Mountain.
Yeah.
It's based on Steve Jackson's first fighting fantasy book, Warlock of Firetop Mountain.
Yeah.
And it's a neat game. You're basically traveling through this mega dungeon, and the combat system is very simple, but it's very nice. It's like, okay, I want this little tiny battle book board game. It cost me $1 on my Switch. It's kind of perfect for that, like a fighting fantasy digitized game book, right? It runs worse than Tears of the Kingdom. And all it does is it has a 3D model on a 4x4 grid to fight with. And it's a static 3D model. It's a little plane piece that bounces around. And the game takes about 15 minutes to start up.
That's bad for the Switch.
Oh yeah, but it's unacceptable. It's such a simple game. And it runs worse than Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom has 3D modeling software in it, basically.
Yeah.
This full-blown massive physics system. So that is super cool.
That's a problem?
No. I just wanted to start with that, get that away. I did, though. You know, at the very start, you have to get to the shrine that's in the snow place.
Yeah.
And you have to get up this massive cliff.
Yeah.
I didn't see the stone, wall that you could climb up behind the waterfall. I just saw the ice wall, and you can't climb ice. I thought ice was a really smart idea. I hope they use it in more places. But I couldn't get up there. So I went around the map, chopping down every tree I could and gluing them together, and I made a gigantic ladder.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I didn't make a ladder, but I cut down the trees, and then at the bottom, I made a tripod, and then I had it tilt over, and then I climbed
Well,
up
yeah,
it.
that's basically what I did. Yeah, and it took me way too long, and then I got sniped the moment I got to the top, and then I found the stone thing. Okay. Crafting system. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I think I got the glue power.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is okay. I can make a raft and whatnot. I was like, it's a little bit fiddly, whatever. And then I saw the fan, and I was like, wait, okay, you're winning me back a little bit. And then the stone glider.
Yeah.
And I started trying to build a UFO. I put fans underneath it, and then I couldn't get that to take off. So then I stuck it on a box, and I put it on top of the box, and I gave it a fan in the back, and I put fans underneath, and I glued a fan to a wall and had it blowing at a sail to try to take off with it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, the more tools, the very cool. And the crafting system, very cool. Like how you can just. The first thing I did was made a spear sail. I just made a spear with a sail on the end, and I thought that I was like looking around, like there's no items in this world. It's like what's going on? There's no weapons.
Tears of the Kingdom might have the most weapons of any game.
But I was just like, okay, you can occasionally find a stone axe in a tree, and that robot has a shovel, and I don't know if there's actually shovels in the game, but that's it. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then you get the crafting thing, and I was like, okay, this is amazing. I stuck an egg on a spear, and then it like broke when I stabbed it. Like it's not just stick them together and the stats; they all have like interactions, which is amazing. It's like they took their food crafting system and made it for the weapons. Super cool. The arrows also incredibly cool. Like I made a bat arrow and a glider arrow and I made a glider shield and all sorts. But it's a bit of a pain, the arrows.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You should be able to like make 15 at once or something.
I agree. I haven't looked up if you can do that, but I find that a little bit of a pain.
Like it's
you can organize them so you can have your most used arrowhead.
Yeah, there's a bunch of sorting, and it's just having to have to craft an arrow every time you make a new arrow is a bit annoying. I do kind of like the gacha slot machine.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny. It's a bit of a, I don't know, like the in some ways they're annoying, like the cooking and the now the gacha slot machine, but it's charming enough and doesn't happen too often.
So have you done some cooking?
Yes, they got the voice actor to sing all the Zelda songs.
Yeah,
I really like that. That's a really nice touch. There doesn't seem to be any music, unless I haven't, like less music almost than Tears of the Kingdom.
There is music.
Breath of the Wild.
There is music, and in the temples, there's a lot more music.
Yeah, like there's locational stuff, but there's not like Hyrule Field.
No, it's very, very mellow.
And I guess why I'm not noticing as much is there's no Guardian Stalkers to...
Yeah, no, it's very mellow, but there is some amazing scores.
The first thing I did when I got into the temple was use the roof ascend ability and shoot through the top. There's no descend ability.
Well, once you're halfway up, you can choose to drop back down.
You can?
Yeah, so when he's like in the position where he's like, do I go up or down? You can press B for back, and then Link goes back down. So you can basically pop up, take a look, then pop back down if you don't like it.
I thought they just wanted you to have an extra button you had to press to pop out of the ground to be annoying.
No.
Oh. I also didn't realize you could take apart things when you glued them. I had to look that up.
Yeah, you just shake them.
Well, because I have Pro Mode on, and so it disables all the tooltips that tell you how to use stuff. So I had Pro Mode on, and I'm pretty sure, first of all, it's impossible to get around without fast traveling at the start of the game, because they tell you have to go back to the Shrine of Ascension. I don't think there's actually a way to get to the Shrine of Ascension without fast travel, because I walked to the pad directly below it, and you can't use the Ascension power to get back up to it.
You can get up to it without that.
Like, you can get back to the Skyland without it, but I don't think you can get to the shrine without it.
No, you can. It requires you to combine certain items.
Okay. Like a glider with a fan?
No.
Oh, like an air balloon?
Yeah.
There's not air balloons on the Sky Island, though.
One of the gacha machines has an air balloon dispenser.
Does it?
Yeah.
I thought, like, there's only 2, isn't there?
There's a ton of gacha machines all over the map.
No, on the starting zone Sky Islands, I don't think there's any gacha dispensers that have air balloons.
Not on the starting zone. You have to go to other places to get it.
But to continue, you can't leave the Sky Islands until you go back to the Shrine of Ascension. They force you to fast travel at least once.
Okay, they might have done.
Because you have the final shrine before you're given the ability to leave the Sky Islands. You have to go back to the Shrine of Ascension.
Oh, okay.
Because if you jump off the islands before you complete all the shrines, you just die.
Yeah.
Which I tested many times.
Okay.
And I don't know how I did. You know when you attach hooks to like rails?
Yeah.
I attached a sail to the hooks to the rails.
Yeah.
And it turned into like a catapult, and it sent me going like 1,000,000 miles an hour across the map.
Yeah. I didn't really pay attention to that, but okay. That might be like one point where it forces you, but after that, there should be nothing that forces you to fast travel.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to get back to it, except fast travel. Okay, so I had Pro Mode on, and I was trying not to fast travel, and the Sky Island's a nightmare to traverse without fast travel, like the starting Sky Island. But I did it, except for that one fast travel that it forces you to do, as far as I'm aware. I'm sure you could do some really janky, clever catapult thing, but using the mechanics as given, there's not really a way to get back.
Yeah.
Then you jump off and you get back to Hyrule. And this is where my problem sort of comes in to begin with. Hyrule feels incredibly empty. It's sort of... This made me realize why people don't like Breath of the Wild. And so here's where I think I did something wrong, and this is... I'll get your opinion on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's my issue. Zelda is missing.
Yeah.
When a person is missing, they could be in trouble or die at any time. So therefore, you have to move as fast as possible to help them out. So I jumped off the Sky Island, I ran to Pura, I ran to the Watch Captain, I ran back to Pura, and then I started running towards Rito Village. And there's... it's just a lot of running with no game going on.
Did you miss the story on the starting islands?
I don't think so. So that's my question. If I did, I want to know because okay, it feels like to me that Breath of the Wild, and this is why I want to get your opinion on this and ask if I missed something or if the story fixes this or okay. It feels like to me Breath of the Wild is like Skyrim, and it feels to me like Tears of the Kingdom is like The Witcher, where in Skyrim it's wander everywhere. You can't go wrong because the goal is to get powerful enough to beat the dragon.
Yeah.
And in Breath of the Wild, right from the start, kill Ganon. And so everything you do moves you towards killing Ganon.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom, hurry, save Zelda. So there's no time to stop and look at the shrines. There's no time to help the guy build his fence. There's no time to carry the Koroks around. There's no time...
Sorry, it's incredibly adorable carrying Koroks around.
It's very fun, yes. But I can't do any because I can't play any of the game because Zelda's in trouble and I'm trying to get her. And so I'm sort of tensed up, right? Going like, I have to hurry up and get to the fun part of the game. All these stupid like shrines and whatnot are in my way, and so I'm just ignoring them all as I run to the fun part, or not the fun part exactly, but I can't do I can't meander from point of interest to point of interest. They're just obstacles in my way to get to to prevent Zelda from being in trouble.
Have you found any tears yet?
No.
Okay.
Would you suggest getting a tear before
I would suggest looking at the tears. They're Impa's thing.
But the game doesn't tell you anything about tears. It says you have to go to these 4 anomalies.
Yeah.
So this is how the game says. It says jump off the pillar. Mm-hmm. You jump off, and if you jump off at the point where it tells you to jump off, you land by that hole with the guys that say you need to run to Pura. So then you run to Pura, and she says you need to run to the captain. And then you run on this giant, long, empty road through Hyrule Castle. Yeah. And you go to the captain, and he says you need to run to Pura. So you have to run back this giant, long, empty road. and then you go to Pura, and she says, here's the hang glider, which nullifies all the crafting at once because it's better than all of it and way easier, which I thought was a bit of a shame. That, I think it should have been energy limited or something potentially. But it does feel slightly nerfed, though. I'm not entirely certain, but it does feel slightly nerfed, which I think is good. Yeah. So then it's hurried back to Pura, get shot in the launchy thing. Yeah. Take a picture of everything, and then hurry to Rito Village because that's where the last sighting of Zelda was after her spirit floated away from the castle. And then
Rito Village, the bird village? Yeah. And you didn't encounter Impa?
I didn't make it to Rito Village.
Okay, so you fall...
Because I was getting sick of just running past all the fun stuff. And
okay, yeah.
Because it's a long ways away. It's really annoying to get to. And there's this giant chasm between you and it. So it's not... You're just like frustratingly trying to navigate all these obstacles to get where they tell you to go.
It's almost a small error in design, definitely, of... on the road to Rito Village with one of the horse places, you should encounter Impa.
Oh no, I'm not on the road. I'm just going in a straight line.
Yeah, if you take the road past the horse...
Like the path I have walked, there has been nothing. There has been no hobgoblins. There has been no shrines. There has been...
Yeah, I'm incredibly confused by what you're doing because for me, so I did everything you said up to that point. Then it's alright, go to Rito Village. Yeah. And so I went to Rito Village, the bird people village. And along the way, I encountered Impa. Encountering her basically fixes your problem.
Okay. I will... So here's the other question I want to ask. Should I trust like it feels like it was a game made by different people. Like it feels like it's linked to the past versus the original Legend of Zelda. And so my question is, should I trust Aonuma and not play in pro mode and use... So I was thinking about this, right? If I stop trying to be the game designer to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I played Breath of the Wild, I didn't start in pro mode, and I didn't ban myself from fast traveling. I just did what I wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
But I started Tears of the Kingdom with pro mode and without fast travel because I found Breath of the Wild more enjoyable like that. But that was more enjoyable after, like, 70 hours of playing with all those things. And so I'm wondering, pro mode tells you how to actually, like, detach wheels so I can actually build the cars properly instead of breaking them every time.
Yeah.
And what fast travel does is it means I actually have a reason to do the shrines rather than they're this annoying obstacle.
Yes.
Because right now the shrines are just a loading screen that I want to avoid.
Yeah.
Because there's also no reason for me to complete the shrines. Why would I ever complete a shrine? Because they haven't told you anywhere, as far as I'm aware, that the things of light do anything for you. They've given you no reason to purify your arm. Like, it gives you 1 heart to get into the Temple of Time.
Yeah.
But they never say it will continue to do that. And they never say, this is something you should do. They never make it explicit that purifying your arm is a good thing. They just say, collect these 4 things so that you can open the door. They never actually say why you're doing it.
Yeah. I think they do say purifying your arm is a good thing because Link has the sword, right?
Yeah, well, he gets rid of it.
No, he has the Master Sword. I'm talking very intro of the game.
Yeah.
Link has the Master Sword, and he encounters Ganondorf.
Yeah.
And Ganondorf obliterates it and kills Link's arm.
Yeah.
And so
it wasn't doing you any good in the first place.
his arm gets replaced.
Yeah.
With the other arm, but it's full of corruption.
Yeah.
And the ghost guy basically tells you, my arm's really weak right now.
But they never say...
Purifying it makes it stronger.
But why would you want to be stronger? There's no threat in the world. There's just a weird miasma. Zelda's missing. There's Hyrule Castle's floating. Some horrible zombie has come back to life. There's no one saying you should be the one to kill the zombie. Like, that's crazy. You couldn't fight him the first time around. There's no reason to... Like, in Breath of the Wild, it's like, hey, you, kill Ganon. Go. And I think that was such an important... I think without that, Breath of the Wild wouldn't have been a critically acclaimed game. I think it was actually necessary for the game to be any good whatsoever. Or no, it would have still had its moments. But the problem, what Kill Ganon does, right, is it changes it from a Ubisoft game where they just scatter a bunch of points of interest around the map to sicken you with this horrible, like, fear of missing out, I have to do them all. And they turn it into, no matter how you have fun, you are working towards your goal of killing Ganon. But in Tears of the Kingdom, and I'll have to visit Impa, obviously, it feels very much like this is a Ubisoft game with tons of points that you can ignore because you're just trying to get through the story and save the princess. Do you see the disconnect I'm trying to point out there?
I see slightly, but I think part of it comes to me is it might be, honestly, starting with Master Mode or what, Pro Mode?
Pro Mode, yeah.
Like, tutorial-wise, like, the little blurbs of information actually contain elements of story.
Okay, well, what I have been considering is just starting from the beginning.
Yeah. But
with just fast travel my heart out, have pro mode on, and just see if that does it. Because I think it might actually make a difference.
Yeah.
The other thing was, I was in a lot of pain at the time while I was playing. And so the thought of a loading screen was so frustrating to me. I was avoiding the shrines. I was like, no, I can't handle another loading screen. I want to get to the fun part. I don't want to sit and watch a loading screen. And if you're trying to get to the fun part, so you're ignoring all the fun, that is...
Yeah, I think you should also just... I mean, it might be different for you, just gameplay-wise, but Tears of the Kingdom is Breath of the Wild.
But it's not, because there's no Kill Ganon. And
it's a continuation of the exact same tale, and exact same expectations of gameplay.
Right, but this without the story element tying it together, then none of it matters, right? Or not right, but that's... How I view it is that without that story element...
The story element is your Link. You're the hero of Hyrule.
Right, but you have to find Zelda.
Yeah.
And you don't know
But Zelda would also want you to help everyone you could.
That's not stated anywhere. We don't know that.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to save Zelda. Like, that captain hasn't slept for like 5 years just looking for her or whatever. Like, he's standing on top of that pillar.
I think it's only been like 6 months.
Well, I have no idea what the time skip is.
Yeah.
I
don't think it was actually all that long. Well, yeah, no, it wasn't all that long.
Now, if...
But do you understand what happened to Zelda? Because that might be a part of it.
Well, I don't know if they've said it, but it seems like... I can guess the plot. Zelda went back in time and had sex with a bunch of goats, and that started the Hylian dynasty.
No.
Okay, let me guess again.
The back in time thing's very obvious.
Well, I don't think it is, actually.
I think it's ridiculously obvious.
I don't. Like, there's nothing really saying that she went back.
You're in the Temple of Time!
So? That's a name. You didn't go back in time in Breath of the Wild in the Temple of Time.
Yeah, you need to find it, but...
So, okay, so Sky Goat seems to really have a thing for Zelda. Like, he keeps talking about her, like, she would have loved for us to meet, and oh, she would have loved this, and she would, like, you know.
Yeah.
So, I actually think I do know one spoiler, but I only know it because I was trying to look up stuff online, and it just never works, right? Because I just wanted to... I really want to like the game. Right? I really, really want to like the game. And so I was just trying to figure out, like, does the plot get better? Does it let you relax? Like The Witcher, right? There's never a time to just sit back and do side quests.
Yeah.
Because it's always, hurry, find Ciri, hurry. And all they needed to do with The Witcher is something like, I don't know, Ciri can look after herself. But if you're in the area, see if she visited this place or something. I don't know. Maybe they could have done something like that. Like, in the Witcher books, that's the plot of the Witcher series, is trying to find Ciri, except, like, when she's a kid. And it takes Geralt, like, 4 years. And he spends, like, a whole year in the night place.
Tucson.
In Tucson. He spends a whole year there, basically, because it's winter, so he just hangs out there for a year. Like, he's in no rush, and he's looking for Ciri in the books, but then the game makes it feel a lot more rushed, almost. And I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is doing the same. I think it's the worst possible open world plot, is to say this person is vaguely missing and there's some vague thing that may or may not happen in an indeterminate time period. I saw someone talk about this with Skyrim versus Morrowind. Skyrim kind of fails as an open world game because it says you have to go to this point, then you have to go to this point, then you have to go to this point, and there's always this rush.
Yeah.
And the only way you can avoid that is by never going to Bleak Falls Barrow, basically. Or never reporting the dragon attack.
Yeah.
Like, basically the moment he says, we should split up, you split up, and that's the only way to avoid the problem with Skyrim. And someone said, yeah, but Morrowind and Skyrim have basically the exact same plot, it's just they do it in a slightly different order. And what I saw someone reply to that was, that order matters immensely. Because in Morrowind, they say, get acquainted with the locals so that they trust you as one of their own, because you're a secret agent for the Emperor in Morrowind. Yeah. So they say, get acquainted with the locals, help them out with a few of their problems, get used to the terrain, and get them to like you.
Mm-hmm.
Go. And Morrowind has the perfect open world plot.
Yeah.
And Breath of the Wild is pretty good because it's like, it's been 100 years. If it takes you 10 years to beat Ganon, it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. Kill Ganon, everything you do works towards killing Ganon.
Yeah.
And then Tears of the Kingdom, it feels a bit more like, I don't know, hurry, don't spend any time having fun, don't spend time building cool structures because you've got to find Zelda now. But again, you said if I find Impa, it might change that?
Yeah, it might change it. I think a part of it is definitely a personal take on how you feel about it. And you're definitely, and it's fair enough to do this, you're treating the game as a standalone game.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Breath of the Wild, as you said, made it very clear, take your time and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And, like, Hyrule is doing fine, even though it's not. And then when you come back, you see how much they've rebuilt. And nothing explicitly horrible seems to be happening. However, there's the unfortunate thing where...
But it's the apocalypse. What are you talking about? There's giant holes opening in the earth. There's rocks raining from the sky. There's hordes of these super mutated creatures. The royal family is missing, and the castle is levitating in the center of the world.
Yeah, but the world...
It's like the end of the world.
But they survived having the apocalypse, a giant robot swarm everywhere.
Lanru village was destroyed. The last outpost of humans was destroyed by pirates attacking the coast. You've got, like, earthquakes. Like, it's the apocalypse. What are you talking about?
I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, like, and also, the map is so ugly now. I don't know if that's really bothering me, too. Like, there's just rocks in your field of view everywhere. Like there's nothing to look at. Like it's all this samey noise.
There's so much to look at and so much to see and do.
It's just like noise. Like it's all just static because it's just rocks everywhere. There's no landscape. There's no rolling hills. There's no cliffs. There's no vistas. It's just...
I very much disagree.
But I really do think that I understand why people don't like Breath of the Wild, because what they did was they started Breath of the Wild, and the old man says you should go see Impa. Wait, shouldn't Impa be dead by now?
She's only like 100 years old.
She's like 130, and she wasn't looking so good in Breath of the Wild.
Kira's her sister, who's actually older.
Yeah, but she uses magic science to... I always gotta have one.
All of Impa's age goes into her head.
What happened to Papaya, or whatever her name was?
She's probably somewhere.
Right, so I think this is what happened for people that didn't like Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
They go in, they do the Great Plateau, they go from shrine to shrine to shrine, and they're like, oh, there's a lot of walking between these shrines. But they do all the shrines, then they have to walk all the way back to Temple of Time, they talk to the old man, they get the glider, and then he's like, go see Impa, and so they have to walk this crazy long distance, because you have to go through the mountains and everything, and then go up. It takes forever to get to Impa. You get to Impa, and then she says... okay, go to these 4 divine beasts and take them out, and you have to do this crazy amount of walking to each divine beast. It's real, and if you're walking and it rains, suddenly your whole day's ruined because you can't even go in a straight line anymore.
Yeah.
So rain isn't a thing to make you have to be creative and come up with different ways to travel, or maybe travel somewhere else that you didn't intend. Rain is a way to make the game artificially longer and make the already bloated distances even wider, because you're doing even less now. You can't even climb. And you go to the 4 things. And then they say, okay, now you can go fight Ganon. So you go and fight Ganon. And you're like, okay, so that was like a 5-hour game that took me 20 hours because the map was so big.
Yeah.
And I really think that's what happened with those people. And I think they would be the same people that play the first Legend of Zelda, and they have a walkthrough with them, and they say, well, that's kind of a boring 5-hour game. And they would really like every other Zelda game, maybe except number 2. But like they would play a game like Link to the Past, and it's very clear, go to this neat thing, go to this neat thing, go to this. They're all next to each other, bing, 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 bing. And Tears of the Kingdom to me feels a lot like Link to the Past. It's like, except they made the map too big. It's like, go to this thing, go this thing. But the way to enjoy Breath of the Wild is to go, okay, here's a world to explore.
But you're getting dissonance because of the plot.
Not with Breath of the Wild.
With Tears of the Kingdom, you're getting...
Yeah, there's no way I'm going to explore the world when Zelda's in danger.
Yeah.
Like, the only way I can really see the plot working is if they say something like, look, Zelda's totally fine, and what you're seeing is just mirages of her from the past, and...
yeah, you really need to find Impa.
But even then, I don't know if that would be good, because then it's like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm going to help this guy put up his Hudson signs while Ganon is like corrupting the world with his miasma. Like Ganondorf is corrupting. Like that doesn't seem proportionate.
Yeah, no, finding Impa makes it proportionate.
I just can't see any plot that would make you... like, I hope there is one, obviously.
There is, yeah. No, finding Impa does it. There's definitely more steps, so you might not like that, Breath of the Wild.
Okay, and here's my next question. Do I have to go and just kind of trudge to each of the calamities? Or I think that's what they called them, like the 4 points.
Yeah.
Do I have to go to each of those and solve them, and then the story opens up and I can do what I want? Because that seems to me like that's actually how you beat the game.
Going to Impa makes it open up.
Because I know, like in The Witcher, right? Mm-hmm. If you sort of rush to Skellige, on Skellige you do have a bit of time to just relax.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few points in the game that it's just like, okay, relax.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that, so I was trying to do all this stuff before Skellige when I was playing The Witcher, and I think that really tainted the experience for me.
Yeah, that was...
What I will say, though...
Zelda just said, Link, you must find Impa.
Well, I'm kind of wondering, if Impa makes the game work, why don't they give her lines to Pyrrha, if Pyrrha is the first person you see?
I don't know.
Because it also feels really weird that you go to Pyrrha, then you have to go to the captain, then you have to go back, because it's a real pain to get to the top of... like, I'm sure even you found it annoying to go to the top of Hyrule Castle. Like, it's this really long road where there's absolutely nothing on it. I think at the very least the captain should have given you the hang glider so you could get back at a decent pace.
I quite enjoyed walking up to the castle road. Because I kept climbing all over the walls and exploring it.
While Zelda was in danger, and they were told you have to see the captain now, now, now. You monster.
They'd been out for quite a few years.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know anything about the timescale.
Well, it seemed like it, and I very much interpret that Zelda's trapped in the past.
But it didn't say that anywhere.
Yeah, but that's how I interpreted it.
Right, but you're forgiving the plot rather than the plot standing on its own in that case. Sort of. Or rather...
No, it's my interpretation of the story.
Right, but headcanon isn't what is stated. Or your interpretation isn't everyone's interpretation.
Yeah.
If instead the goat man says, "Oi, get up. Zelda's stuck in the past. How about you gather the 4 power crystals and then you can go back." Because if Zelda's stuck in the past, actually, right? That means you have all the time in the world to save her because who cares? You got time travel on your side.
I wonder if their tongue-in-cheekness was...
What tongue-in... I am wondering, are you feeling like you're trying to avoid some sort of spoiler and it's really restricting...
It's partly that, yes. It's partly trying to avoid a spoiler, but for me, so I start playing the game, right?
Yeah.
So this ghost shows up.
Yeah.
He's a ghost.
A goat ghost.
Yeah, goat ghost.
Yeah.
And he's giving you his arm.
Yeah.
So, and you saw him as a corpse.
Yeah.
You saw him as a straight up dead guy. Like earlier on, then his hand rises up and tries to fight Ganon.
Yeah.
And it fails.
Yeah.
So, you know he's dead.
Yeah.
And he's a ghost. And so, he's there, and you're going along, and he's talking about Zelda. And he's like, oh, she really wanted to meet you. She said all these great things about you.
Yeah.
And she's in the Temple of Time. You just have to get through this door.
Yeah.
So
and he's a liar.
Well, that's what he's telling you.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, you just have to get through this door, and she's there.
And why couldn't she wait? Like, it took me, maybe 10 minutes after he said that to get it. Why couldn't he... Well, maybe, more like an hour, but she couldn't wait an hour?
So...
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So you go through, and you open up the door, and you think... My thoughts at first... All right, so this guy's spirit's been talking with Zelda. That's what's been going on. Anyway, so you get there, and you go, and... you go through the temple, and Zelda's not there. And you're like, where the heck is she? And you see the Master Sword, and it's all horribly broken.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. And so you put it into that weird glowy rift thing.
Yeah, and it goes back in time to... we don't know if that's back in time or not.
So you put it there.
Yeah.
And Zelda's extending the exact same spot you are.
Yeah.
And she has the sword.
Yeah, so do you know what I thought the plot was going to be? And I thought it would have been amazing. I thought that there was some weird timey-wimey nonsense going on with the Master Sword. And you could switch back and forth between Zelda and Link. And if you switch to Zelda, you would have access to the Sheikah Slate. And if you switch to Link, you'd have access to the arm. And then you're together. You can maybe leave notes for each other or something. Or, take pictures. That would have been a great plot. Why'd they have to tear them apart? They just got back together in Breath of the Wild. But then it's like, oh, they can talk to each other in ghost form and switch back and forth in time. Wouldn't that be such a peaceful... relax and look around the world. Anyways, yeah, okay. So Zelda grabs the sword.
Grabs the sword. You're in the exact same spot.
Yeah.
And from the way that guy's been communicating, so she's there.
Yeah.
So either she's in a different dimension.
Yeah.
Or she's back in time. Those are the only 2 options of all the context you have.
Yes.
So she says, Link, you must find me.
Yeah.
So that guy is dead. Dead as a doorknob.
Yeah.
So the only way he could have talked to her is either he can travel to that spirit dimension, but he would have told you she's in a spirit dimension.
Well, he told you she was inside the place. He's not a very trustworthy guy.
Well, no, she is there.
No, she's not. There's just, you've put the sword in the thing. She doesn't talk to Link. You see from Zelda's point of view.
Yeah.
She's just, for some reason, complaining that her bodyguard hasn't found her. That's sort of how I got it. I don't see her saying, Link, you must find me, like she's actually talking to Link. I see her as just sort of where's that lazy...
No, she's very much talking to him because she sees the sword appear and she's like, oh, Link, you gave me your sword.
Right,
go grab that.
Right, but Link doesn't hear her.
I think it's implied that he does because when his eyes go, Wah!
Well, because the sword just disappeared. He just lost the Master Sword, the one thing that can defeat the evil.
No, I think his eyes going, Wah, is that he saw her.
No, I saw it totally as him I just lost the Master Sword.
Okay.
Because you don't... Just because the camera shifts view doesn't mean Link's perception shifts view.
Anyways, it's very clear to me that she's back in time from just that.
Right, okay, but let's say she's an hour back in time. And so you give her the sword and she's got what I needed, and she leaves. And then Link opens the temple and she's gone.
Does her outfit and hair being completely different?
Is it?
Yes, she's wearing a completely different outfit and her hair's being cut short. Because when you're...
Yeah, it was short when
sorry, her hair's really long again.
Oh, is that why they cut her hair?
Yeah.
So you would notice.
Yeah, her hair's really long. She's wearing a totally different outfit.
Huh. No, I didn't notice that at all.
You know, for someone who plays a fashion video game...
Look, it's really... Okay, so...
Yeah, her outfit's completely different. She's, like, dressed up like the
Okay,
Goat Man.
so this is how I saw the events play out, right?
Right.
You fall, things go horribly wrong. Zelda and you end up on the Zonai Island. You're dying, so the ghost does some quick ghost surgery on you. And while you're recovering, Zelda and the ghost hang out. And then Zelda ditches you because she's ungrateful. Well, okay, no. I want to be serious here. Zelda leaves for some reason. That's a good point, actually. Why would she be in danger if she was voluntarily leaving? Well, why did she say you must find me then? Like, why is she being so adamant about that instead of like, hey, just to let you know, I'm here if you want to, hang out. You do, just come to the castle. I'll be, and she looks at you and disappears. Like, I'll go back. Okay, so this is what I think happened. Hand saves you. Zelda teleports. That doesn't really make sense. You both end up on the Zonai Island. I have two possibilities. This is one. While the ghost is nursing you back to health, the ghost and Zelda hang out. Zelda discovers, I gotta do something about this miasma. I'm gonna go tell Link that I don't know where I'll be, but he needs to find me, which is okay. It's not useful, but sure. Why didn't she stop by Pyrrha if that was the case? So that doesn't really make sense. That doesn't make sense. Okay, option 2 then. Zelda goes back like 100,000 years in time with her teleport. Ghost grabs you. But you said my original idea didn't work.
The making love to a bunch of goats didn't work.
But that's exactly what happened. Like, that's gotta be what happened. There's pictures of it and everything everywhere.
Sure, you can interpret Zelda, who loves Link.
No, she doesn't. Link's with Fish Lady. Mipha.
Mipha's dead.
Yeah, but from Link's perspective, she's been dead for like a month.
And that was unrequited love.
No, they had an arranged marriage. Link and Mipha had an arranged marriage, and then the calamity happens, and Mipha dies, and Link wakes up, and he learns that Mipha's dead, like, after waking up.
Was it arranged marriage, or wasn't it just Mipha say, you're going to marry me?
No, I'm pretty sure it was an arranged marriage. He had the, that armor he wears is like a wedding gift. Like the fish armor is like a wedding gift, I'm pretty sure. That's
always been a joke in the Legend of Zelda game. Like this, in Ocarina of Time, the princess of the fish people also said, you're going to have to marry me, Link.
Right, but like...
It's a Japanese joke. It's probably not translating all that well. Basically, she's saying, Link, you have to marry me.
No, but that armor you can't wear unless, like, you're married into the family or something.
Yeah, she gives that to Link to try to force him to marry her because it's unrequited love. That's a constant joke in The Legend of Zelda. Is the fish lady's always trying to get Link to marry her.
No, I'm almost certain. Like, in the final ghost memory when she's, like, talking to him, I'm pretty sure she says something like, I'll always love you or something.
Yes, unrequited love.
No, I think they had an arranged marriage. I'm almost certain they had an arranged marriage.
No, it's unrequited love. It's always been a joke.
No, I'm pretty sure him and Mipha are, like, engaged. And then he wakes up, his fiance's dead. He goes and saves Zelda. And then she forces him to eat a frog. Or maybe that was in the past. Anyways, she gets her bodyguard back. And then they go underground. And they're gone again. They're separated again. I guess she gets a haircut before then.
Have you gone even to your house? No, you haven't.
No.
Okay.
I've moved... Rito Village is in the opposite directions from Hatton now. Yeah.
Yeah, you interpret that very... Like, this isn't even spoilers. Breath of the Wild. No, Link and Zelda are in love with each other.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
They're definitely not.
They definitely are.
No, it's like a... You're one of those salmon... Where's my C.S. Lewis quote?
No.
It's totally like a... He's her bodyguard. That'd be very unprofessional. What did Jason Statham say? Rule number 1, never fall in love with your mark or something like that?
He's her knight.
Yeah. You can't... She would be abusing her position of authority if she had a relationship with him. Like,
no, the knight saves the princess because he
look, sure. Okay, look. Mipha's dead now. I can ship it. That's fine. I like... but They also look very similar. Like, there might be a bit of inbreeding there. Like, I don't know if that would be a good idea.
He's a royal guard and she's the royal princess, so...
Like, there's, like, Hyruleans are all different skin colors and hair colors, but they're both, like, blonde and white, and, like, I don't know. Like, Link's tiny. There's that. Like, he's a midget. But beyond that, I'm not sure if that's, Anyways, so what I think happened is Zelda goes back in time. She meets this magical people, these magical aliens, the Zonai.
Yeah.
And she convinces them to come down to Earth and fight Ganon, like 100,000 years in the past or something. And they get married and they start the Hyrulean dynasty.
And so she's her own great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother.
Yeah.
So there's like super time incest. And basically her genetics will infinitely decay.
No, I don't think... No, I guess her children would be... Would there be any inbreeding?
Alright, ignoring that genetically, because there would.
Anyways, so she meets this goat dude, and then she goes and gets captured by Ganondorf, or something. Or is, like, pinned under a rock. Like, she's very vague. And is going to die if you don't find her within, like, 15
No, she
hours.
has the sword, and she looks at him, and it's like, oh, you must find me.
Yeah, but she gets that sword while she's still dating the Zonai dude. And she's... Look, her magic is so weird that when she says you must find me, right? Even if Link hears that, it doesn't have to be the same event, if that makes sense. Like she could be saying you must find me as a portion of that memory. But that's not what happened when she was actually getting the sword back. Okay, so she gets the sword back in Zonai times, when the Zonai were at the height of their civilization. And she lives a whole life, starts the Hyrulean dynasty, and then she gets pinned under a rock somewhere, let's say.
Yeah.
With the sword in her hand.
Yeah.
And...
Okay, so she's pinned under a rock, however, people have been seeing her all over the place.
Yes, I'll get to that. That's Ganondorf.
Okay.
So, and the reason that's Ganondorf is because when the first blood moon happens, she goes full Galadriel, and it's terrifying. And that is not Zelda. It's like the blood moon's power draws an eye once again. Beasts walk the land.
If you've encountered a blood moon or not.
And they will rise and crush the puny Hylians under their mighty... Like, she's Ganon. Like, there's something going on there.
Yeah, so it's Ganon everywhere, so you have to find the princess.
Well, I think that, like, Ganon's...
Okay, what's the best way to find the princess?
To go to the 4 points of...
No, those are points where people said they have seen her, but those areas are really troubled, and you were told that.
Yeah, and you're told you have to go fix them because that's where she is.
That's where she's been potentially seen.
Yeah, so that's your best lead, so that's the best way to find her.
Yeah, so you
like Pyrrha says that. Pyrrha's the big brain. Link isn't a big brain. Okay, so, I think Zelda is controlled or fighting Ganon in some way where she's, I don't know, they're time-sharing reality or something. And so Link wakes up, the ghost is long dead, but he knew Zelda. And he says, yo, Zelda said, by the time you wake up, everything will be falling apart.
Yeah.
And you need to find her.
Okay. So I don't know if they set up so you'll be guaranteed to find input or not.
Well, clearly not.
But even completing one region is enough to storily free you from your angst.
I did wonder that as well. What I was going to do originally was I was going to beat the Rito thing and then... But... If those are the equivalent of divine beasts, that's like a quarter of the game just so you can start playing the game. And it does seem to me... And so they are the equivalent of divine beasts, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's probably the most unoriginal Zelda plot I've ever seen. I do have to say that. Not plot structure. Like, the shrines, you have to cross a frozen river, and you have to get the hot berries, and you have to go up to the icy mountain, and if you get to the icy place first, then you get the warm pants... And if, like, everything is identical.
Yeah.
The only difference is there's, like, hidden caves now that you can find. Yeah. Which are very fun, by the way. I think it's a bit overkill how they say, secret area discovered every time you find a cave. But it is fun.
Yeah.
The other thing that maybe I did wrong was going to the underworld first. It's very boring. At least the area I was in.
Probably was. You don't have the glider or anything else.
No, I had the glider by then. No, it's just like... It's like a flat morass full of color-swapped enemies. Like, they just put a little red glow around them.
Yeah.
And Like, that is so disappointing compared to cave networks or something. And maybe it's just that area.
It's probably just that area. Because the underground is really interesting.
Okay. And, like, the first thing I did was catch a stall horse and then just start riding across the miasma. And I didn't really I didn't see much, obviously. I ran into the giant root that lights up the world, but... Yeah. Oh, I haven't actually tested this. But I'm almost certain of the answer to this. But I was riding around the underworld, trying to figure out how to leave. I was like, oh, do you have to fast travel for everything? And so after I stopped playing, I fast traveled out, and I was kind of disappointed. I was doing a bunch of other stuff. I got the glider suit, which is very fun. The wingsuit.
Have you all of it or just a piece of it?
Just a piece of it.
Yeah.
But it's like the wingsuit is like just one piece is like 10 times better than without it.
Yes. It's
very fun. So I got the wingsuit, and then I was like, okay, I'm just kind of done because this isn't working right now. I'm just going to take a step back,
Yeah.
Ask you about it. And I was just, it might have been a couple days later, I was like, wait, the ascension power.
Yeah.
You're underground. You can just ascend.
You can't use it anywhere, but there are points where you can ascend out.
Because I was
there are these giant stone pillars that descend from the sky in the underground.
Okay. But yeah, I was just like, wait a minute. You have a power that can swim through Earth. You're underground.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did this, but those stone gliders are a real pain to launch. Like, they're super heavy. Mm-hmm. And if you just chuck them off the edge, then you can't get on them in time.
Yeah.
So what I started doing, because I felt super big brain, was I lifted them up with my glue power, and I moved them out over the edge, and then I put them back on the ground, and then I jumped on them, and I sent them back in time.
Yes.
And then I was super big brain. There was this...
Okay, no. You have a rune that controls time, so it implies that there's time power. When you're in the Temple of Time, you get the rune that controls time to mess with time.
Yeah. That doesn't mean you can... Like, it's like 15 seconds.
Yeah, but it's like a weak form of the bit. It's very much context clues and implication. That's another imply. You have literal time control in the Temple of Time.
Right, sure. But that doesn't... Look, okay, let me put it this way. Zelda is 10 years in the past. She's like a magical spirit of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
When she says you need to find me, she's saying you need to find me in the future when I'm in trouble again. Like, you can't find someone that's in the past.
She might not be in trouble. She just says you need to find me.
Well, then she would say, hey, you want to hang out sometime?
Well, no, she's being dramatic.
Like we said you shouldn't do? Well, no, she shouldn't be dramatic, man. Like you can't, like, from a...
No, you do have to find her. That's what she's saying.
Yeah. I don't think you can just excuse that, for that reason, at least. So yeah, the one thing I did that felt kind of... So yeah, like, she's saying, I'm in danger now.
No, it doesn't have to mean I'm in danger. You must find me.
Pretty sure it does.
No, it doesn't.
Well, if it doesn't, it's a terrible thing to say.
Bruv, I've got $500, but I lost my map. You have to find me.
Right, but that's a terrible thing to say then for an open world game. Because in an open world game, you want every excuse for the person to engage with your open world. But my point being that time travel doesn't fix the problem that she's in trouble right now. If she's stuck in the past and she doesn't exist in the future, that's a different story. Because then you can go back in time and help her out. And then you have all the time in the world to do that action.
Yeah.
Another thing they could do is... I thought the gates on the Temple of Time were actually a good idea. Where you need to have a certain amount of hearts to actually open them.
Yeah.
If they put those gates like all around Hyrule, that would be another reason to force you to use the shrines.
Yeah.
Like, it would frustrate speedrunners to no end. But it would... Mm-hmm. I don't think it would be the right way, but it is a way to do it. Yeah. So another thing I did was I wanted to get onto this floating island, and it was a real nightmare to get up to. So I lifted up one of those gliders, and I swung it out onto the island, then I swung it up back, then I stepped on it, and then I used the time backwards in time, and it swung out with me under the island. And then while I was under the island, I used the ascension power and tunneled up through the island. And the coordinate... It took me like 3 tries because the coordination, but... Oh, I felt like a...
You're going to have to make me play the start of the game again.
I felt like a ginormous brain. Like, it was just throbbing with... That was the other thing, actually. I was having trouble sleeping because the combinatorial explosion, my brain wouldn't stop thinking. It was just like, there's too much potential. Yeah. What am I going to do? Like, in a good way.
Yeah.
But I was just like, holy cow, there's so much to do here. Yeah, so... Yeah, like, start again... No pro mode, fast travel like crazy, find Impa, and you think it sort of...
Will work.
Okay, do you think it will work...
So pro mode turns off all tooltips?
It turns off the things like press this to, like, you know how you can hold down the right bumper to get the 3D rotation of the objects?
Yeah.
It doesn't show you that. It doesn't show you wiggle undoes stuff.
Yeah.
So it gets rid of those kind of tooltips.
Okay. Maybe you can keep Romo then.
Well, I want to know what the tooltips are.
Yeah.
Because I was just like mashing to figure them out. If Impa does fix it, I find it weird that she isn't like on the island with a goat or something. But hopefully, so I guess my question is, does Impa fix it for you with your take on the events, or does it fix it in a more general sense? And then I guess the third most extreme is, am I interpreting events in a very non-standard way?
You're interpreting events in a very non-standard way, and Impa will help you interpret them better.
Okay. Because I do wonder if people like Tears of the Kingdom more because they would prefer a game like Link to the Past over the original Legend of Zelda. Because they like the extra guidance and are able to... Okay, so I think I know a fairly major spoiler about the story. But the problem with my mind is that I know that Link doesn't know that. So Link would still be hurrying to find Zelda unless Link himself is given a reason to relax.
What spoiler do you have?
Well, I don't know if I even want to mention it for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, if this is going on the podcast, then...
it's meant to be before the podcast for 1 hour now.
Yeah, so this might have to be part of the podcast. But if it's going on the podcast, then I don't want to necessarily spoil like a major story point. Yeah. And then secondly, you confirming or denying it is of itself confirming or denying it. And thirdly, you might not know it if you have. If I don't know if you've beat the game yet. Or...
I haven't.
Okay, so you might not know it, and it might be a spoiler for you.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a fairly end of the game thing, which I unfortunately stumbled across.
It is unfortunate if you stumble across the spoiler that I wouldn't want anyone to stumble across. Because there's a very big spoiler that's like, it sucks to stumble across that one.
Well, this one's pretty big, so I don't know. Because a bigger spoiler.
I felt so proud figuring it out before it was revealed. Like it's a very big reveal, but you can contextually figure it out beforehand.
A bigger spoiler to me, though, I think, would have been the existence of the crafting system.
Okay.
So it's not the worst thing for me.
Yeah.
And I also do wonder, should I just go and read the entire plot, and then would that allow me to realize that Zelda's not in X amount of danger? And I don't know if that would help or not, because like I said, when I play a game, and I wonder if I should force myself not to do this, but I am Link, right? So Link doesn't know that he should be relaxed. Because, so here's my problem with The Witcher, right? Mm-hmm. There's like 2 or 3 time-limited quests, but in general, it doesn't actually matter how long it takes you to get to Ciri, right? So I could just say, you know what, I'm going to ignore chasing Ciri, and I'm just going to have fun in the world, right? I can just do that. Except, if I say that the plot doesn't matter, then I'm saying that this aspect of the game doesn't matter, and therefore that sort of cascades to no aspect of the game matters. Why would I help these people with the werewolf problem? Why would I want to make money? Why would I want to level up? Because if saving Ciri is pointless, well, I mean, that's the most important thing, so everything else is even more pointless. Yeah. So I don't know if I can say, oh, Link wouldn't panic here, and so...
Okay, yeah, so if you think about the game that way, then definitely Impa fixes it.
Okay.
Because I don't think a lot of people have that problem.
But then again, I find it really weird that Impa wouldn't be the first thing you see.
I think a lot of people just go straight to one of the villages.
Well, I went straight towards Rito Village.
Yeah, I think people do a village and then they open world play. Because the villages also solve it.
But then it's like a really long walk, right? So you have this huge stretch still at the start of the game where you're not playing and having fun.
Well, no. So you have this long walk, but if you follow the road or ride a horse or glide, you should be able to see that there are a bunch of minor problems going on, and Link will rush in to fix those minor problems.
But there's bigger problems out there than that. Like, you have to go in... like
bigger problems don't matter when there's a minor problem before you.
I think that... No, I don't think so.
If there's a man getting murdered by Boca Golems before you, but you have to go save the princess.
Sure, you'll save the Boca Golem, but you're not going to, like, do a shrine or put up a sign.
Yeah, those can wait.
Yeah, but the amount of people getting murdered by Boca Golems is hopefully very small. And, you know, if you expend all your energy on these inconsequential things like building a fence. By the time you get there, Zelda might be dead.
Yeah.
And so I do think there's this massive empty, like you're just basically holding the forward button for like 20 minutes instead of playing a game.
If you're insane.
No, because there's the reason Breath of the Wild works is because there's always a new. You're like, ooh, well, look at that. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that. There's always something new in your field of view, and you have the freedom. You have the latitude to explore it. But in this case, it's like, oh, look at that. Another thing I can't investigate. Look at that. Another thing I can't investigate. Because I have to get Zelda. I have to get Zelda. I have to get Zelda.
But she's back in time, so she can wait.
Well, no.
And she waited for me for 100 years beforehand. I'm certain she's fine.
She's fine 5 years ago or whenever how far back she went in time, let's say. But that doesn't mean she's fine right now. Especially since you see her. Like, especially seeing her at the castle makes it even worse, I think. Because it's like, she's right there. If you just hurry, you can catch her.
But then she disappears.
Yeah. Which means you weren't fast enough and you need to be even faster. That meant you were too slow. And you have to be, rush even more. Because you...
No, there's something weird going on.
Yeah, you're...
It's very fey. It's very weird. Time is... These are just projections from the past.
Well, it doesn't... There's no...
That's what I interpreted. That's what it looked like. I think we're getting very different context clues and taking very different interpretations.
No, maybe I'm not, but what I'm trying to express is that if you take it at face value, there is nothing saying that. You can interpret all sorts of things, but if you go without interpretation, all you have is the big brain purist saying you need to go to these spots. I find that kind of...
See, here's... So purist says, these are 4 different locations, these are the 4 corners of the world.
Yeah.
People have seen Zelda at each of these locations.
Yeah.
So...
No, I'm saying without you doing your own interpretation, though, right?
I'm doing this without interpretation. I'm laying out. Straight. So Pyrrhus said that people have seen... So you get to the castle, because there are sightings of people of Zelda at the castle.
Yeah.
You talk to the captain, and he says, we haven't been able to find her in the castle. You and her went down, disappeared, a whole bunch of stuff happened. So you go back to Pyrrha, and you talk to her, and she makes you shoot up and saying that we lost all our old towers, and so we've had to build new towers.
She didn't actually say you lost the towers. I'm still kind of weirded out about that. I don't know where everything went.
Okay, anyways, but she's saying, we need you to link up all these towers.
Yeah.
So she tells you that. That was one of the things she tells you.
I don't think she says we need you to do it, but maybe. Anyways.
Yeah.
She says you're the only person that can actually hang glide.
Yeah, you're the only person who can hook up these towers.
Yeah.
And it's important for us, she does express it's important for us to get them back because they allow for communication.
I don't think she said that.
I'm pretty certain she did.
I don't think she did, but maybe I missed it. Anyways,
then she says, all right, so you're looking for Zelda because she's still missing. Everyone has been looking for her. There are 4 different locations across the map where people have spotted her.
Yeah, she says you need to investigate these 4 sites.
Yeah, so you can investigate these 4 sites.
She says you need to investigate these 4 sites.
Does she say you need to?
I'm pretty sure she does.
I don't think she said that. I think you said that. But she also lets you know that a bunch of weird things have been happening in these areas, and there's problems going on all throughout Hyrule.
Yeah, so I sort of, when that happened, I just felt this sense of dread of like, oh, now I have all these tasks to do. I have to go here and here and here. Because it was really interesting.
See, that sense of dread of I have to do all these things is an interpretation. Because what she told me, there's 4 different locations where people have seen Zelda. How I took that, so this is personal interpretation now, is we have no idea where Zelda is.
No, but I'm pretty sure she said you have to investigate these sites. Like it's the quest markers are telling you, go to these sites. The quest markers aren't telling you to do something else. If you go by what the game information is, it says go to these 4 places.
To investigate sightings of Zelda.
Yeah, but it's still saying go to these 4 points.
Yeah, to investigate sightings of Zelda.
But that doesn't... The game is saying your next step is to go on this massive, long path.
To investigate
why do you keep saying that, though?
Because there's sightings. There's no different proof. It's not saying Zelda's here. You have to go here to save her. It's saying go to these spots to investigate sightings.
Yeah, but that's even worse because you're so far behind finding her that you like, that's why I wondered if this is...
Yeah, you're so far behind finding her that a little bit longer doesn't matter.
Well, you don't know that. It could be every second counts. Like in The Witcher, you don't know where Ciri is.
See, my disconnection with The Witcher comes from is the hunt is trying to hunt her down.
Yeah.
And the world will end at any moment.
Yeah. And it's the same in Zelda.
No, because the story disconnects from the game. Because The Witcher is poorly written, the video game. Because if you take all the time you want, then it doesn't make sense. However...
But the exact same thing happens in Zelda.
Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, you can trust the story writers to know what they're doing. And so, if the world's not ending because you haven't found her, there's a reason it's not ending because you haven't found her. It's the same thing where it's like, Link, I am holding on with the last of my strength, but you still have time to get stronger.
But she never said I'm holding on with the last of my strength, though, in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, well, okay, then there's even that. She's like, you have to beat Ganon because of what happened in your past. I mean...
Like, as far as I'm pretty... Maybe I'm...
In Breath of the Wild, you're trying to remember who you are.
Yeah, but in Breath of the Wild, I'm pretty sure there's no reason to believe that she couldn't hold against Ganon forever, basically. Like,
Yeah, but yeah, so she could have held against Ganon forever. Although I think she actually does say I'm weakening, but... but the world hasn't ended, so you have time. And that's the
But
same...
you could say Ciri isn't dead, so you have time in The Witcher, you could say.
No, but that's... Well, yeah, you can interpret like that, and then you can take your time in The Witcher.
No, because every second is another second that it might end. Is another second that Ciri or Zelda might die. Like, if you know this, like, if you don't find someone after they've been missing for 72 hours, they're probably dead, right? You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the search efforts, they put all their effort into the first 24 hours especially.
But Goatman seemed to be talking pretty amicably with her. And you had a long time to be unconscious and healed.
Yeah, and then you send the sword back in time, and then Zelda says, you need to find me.
Yeah, because she has the sword now, so you need to find her to get your sword back.
Well, because the problem started. She doesn't say, I'll give you the sword back.
Well, it doesn't say that the problem started. She just says you have to find me.
Yeah, no, you have to find me.
It's actually Link, you must find me.
Sure, you must find me. It's not... like...
You must find me.
Must is there is a necessary component here. This is something that needs to be done.
But it's not you must find me now. It's Link, you must find me.
Why would anyone say that if it wasn't urgent?
You must find God. You must find enlightenment.
Yeah, that's all. Those are urgent things.
No, they aren't.
They're saying this is something that you have to do, so get doing it. If there's a task that needs to be done, you need to be doing the task. Like,
maybe the game's just not compatible with you.
Like, you must take out the garbage. Does that to you sound like, wait 3 months and then...
Fair enough. Well, maybe the game just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't.
I think it does. And I think you're just being silly, but that's me.
Wait. I'm confused now. You think the game works for me?
Yes.
But why... Okay, 2 things then. Why are you saying maybe it doesn't work for me? And why are you saying maybe it does? When you also said if I talk to Impa, it makes it work.
Because I'm stupid.
Or maybe, you don't have to be stupid. Maybe I convinced you that even Impa wouldn't save me.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I think that you're trying to convince yourself because you got into the oh no dread of I have to do things, and so you kept building up that dread instead of enjoying the game. You just kept having that dread. Instead of trusting the game, you decide to make assumptions about it.
No. What assumptions have I made? There is glowing dots on the map that say go to this spot and this spot and this spot and this spot.
I completely ignore glowing dots in video games.
Okay, but what assumption have I made based on what is offered to me?
That you're going to have to, I have to go and do this, and I have to go do this, I have to go do this, and then there's no actual game, and I can't enjoy anything because I just have to walk around and not stop anything and you're just like, the whole game's going to be like this. The whole game's going to be miserable, and I won't have a moment to enjoy because I have to spend every single moment trying to save Zelda. Unlike Breath of the Wild, where you could just wander around because you're trying to get strong enough to save her.
Okay, that's not my thought process whatsoever. I think it's a good example of why you shouldn't do armchair psychology. And maybe it's also me not communicating very well. I think that was too negative.
As far as what it sounded like you've been saying, that you can't enjoy the game, is what it sounded like, because you don't want to feel rushed to play it.
Yes, but saying that I am trying to make myself miserable and all those various things that I'm doing to make myself miserable seems like a step too far.
Aye.
Because I really want to like the game.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I don't want...
No, fair enough, because you were even asking me, how can I enjoy the game? Is there a way for me to enjoy it? No, I was wrong.
Yeah, I guess it's just...
Okay, let's reset. What I said there was incorrect, and I shouldn't have said it like that, and that was me getting frustrated unduly. I shouldn't be frustrated. And I think that Impa might fix the problem you have. And when you launched up in the shooty thing,
yeah,
did you see giant pictograms on the map?
No.
Like when you're gliding around and it's showing you the whole world?
No.
Like, what are those, like the walkie lines, the Nazca lines?
No, I did walk into them when just walking around, but I didn't see them when I was in the air.
Okay.
But I did come across one when I was just walking around.
Yeah.
And then a battle talus stood up and crushed me.
Was there like a horse place right next to that?
Well, I think so. I was trying to head to a horse place, and then like I got killed by a talus or something.
You're literally in the spot where... That's literally the spot where Impa is.
Right, but then I left that area because there was a talus there.
Yeah, she's a little bit before that talus.
Well, no, because the talus was between me and the horse, I think.
Then you walked that from a really weird angle.
Well, I flew there, I think, originally. Because how did that work? I got on top of the shrine of... Or the... What was it called? The Pillar of Bravery or Courage? And then I put like a glider suit there, and I attached air balloons and a fan to it. And then I flew that as absolutely far as I could, and then I jumped and glided off that as far as I could.
So because you couldn't take the road to reach a village, you missed the thing.
Well, like, you know the camera lady in Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't see her until I had almost beat the game. And I never went to, like, doing the memory quest as well. I didn't do that until I nearly beat the game, because I didn't know that was a thing. Because I didn't have the camera, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was all these spots you're supposed to visit and find.
Yeah.
And that is... So this is something I wanted to mention. You can make a game that is no one left behind. Everyone gets the same experience. I think like the Uncharted games do that quite clearly. And no one gets left behind. But what that means is there's not much room for discovery and art.
Yeah.
And so if you make what I believe to be a great game, like the original Zelda or like Breath of the Wild, and probably like Tears of the Kingdom, Skyrim as well to a degree, Morrowind for sure. When you make these great games, you're going to lose someone. You're always going to lose someone, even someone that wants to like it. And it's unfortunate, but it's the cost of making great art.
Yeah.
And so, I don't begrudge a company for doing that. It's just, it's a shame if you're the one that falls outside of it. But when you fall outside of it, it can be possible to learn how to enjoy it and how to get back within.
Yeah. So I would say getting rid of Master Mode, using fast travel are two parts of the game.
Because the other thing I was thinking, you know what's funny actually?
Also, even if you go to one of those problem points, it fixes it as well.
So you know what's funny? Very clearly the point of the Sheikah Towers in Breath of the Wild was that you see this big thing in the sky.
Yeah.
So you go to it, you climb it,
Yeah.
you get the massive map unlocked. So it's something that you're really motivated to do, and it's very easy to find. And then if you're at the top of it,
you can
suddenly
take pictures of locations you want to go to.
You can see all these locations you want to go to, and because you have the hang glider, you can glide to them, but not all the way. And then hills get in the way, and you get sidetracked, right?
Yeah.
But that design isn't quite obvious, so people might have just been fast traveling to get closer.
Yeah.
So what I think is kind of funny is they made it so explicit in Tears of the Kingdom, where they force you to hang glide away from the tower.
Yeah.
It's like, you step onto this tower, we're going to launch you to the stratosphere.
Yes.
I thought that was very funny, that they did it that way. So yeah, the thing with Tears of the Kingdom, I guess, is I'm wondering, and it sounds like you disagree with this point, or maybe not disagree, but you think it's okay. I'm wondering, did Aonuma actually still write a good story, or did he mess up with the story? Like Todd Howard wrote a great story for Morrowind and slightly messed up with Skyrim.
I read something that Aimu actually said about how he made both games, and it's he doesn't like writing stories for games. The less story he can write, the better, because he wants people to make their own story.
Yeah, but it seems like he kind of went too hard in Tears of the Kingdom.
No, he didn't.
Like, it feels like he wrote too much story to try to hold people's hands.
I personally, because this is subjective.
Yeah, and I just had a thought of what I know. Yeah, okay.
I personally think that he did it just as well as Breath of the Wild.
To me, okay, so this is sort of the thought I've been trying to express, I guess.
Yeah.
It feels like to me that, and I hope I'm wrong, and that's why I asked you about it.
Yeah.
Because I could look it up online, but then I'd get all these other spoilers. Because I do know that there's, I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's going to be like champion power equivalents.
Yeah.
And I don't want to know what those are or anything. But my concern is that there was a lot of Zelda fans that were upset by Breath of the Wild. And my concern was he would try to pander to them for Tears of the Kingdom and kill what made Breath of the Wild great.
What was the thing that upset them?
What I said is just this big empty world with no story where you walk from point to point to point by holding down the forward button, and it's boring. Because a Zelda game is a very tightly structured story where you go from point to point to point, but there's not empty spaces between the points. It's just you go from beat to beat to beat.
Yeah, no, he didn't appease those fans whatsoever in that sense.
Okay, because, and well, what I worry what he did was he tried to appease them, and then he made a game where the people that like the freeform nature of Breath of the Wild won't like it, because now you have this story where you have to rush after Zelda, and then the people that like the majority type of Zelda game don't like it because there's still all this empty space.
No. Tears of the Kingdom is Breath of the Wild with underground and overground.
That's what I want it to be.
That is what it is.
Because it wasn't feeling like that to me, but that's what I really want it to be.
That is what it is.
And not just, because this is key, right? You can have all the pieces for a game to be like that. Like Skyrim is this amazing open world that's like 4 Morrowinds.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think Skyrim's worse than Morrowind because they didn't weave it together right. They missed the trick where they needed to give you some time to say, all right, Dragon's going to appear. I have this mod for Skyrim right now. It's called the End Times.
Yeah.
And what it does is it gets rid of the... Well, I don't think it gets rid of the quest, but you can essentially ignore the quest.
Yeah.
And instead it says the world will end in 365 days. In 365 days, Alduin will attack. If you can't beat him, you lose the game.
Yeah.
And I think that is what Skyrim should have done in the first place. That is an amazing way to solve it. It's basically go around and do everything you can, and maybe you go to Balgruth and you say, okay, how do I kill a dragon? And then you give him the dragon stone. And so it makes everything work, and I think it's really cool. Yeah. But Skyrim didn't do that, and it has... So it's missing... Like, I think... Let's say Impa doesn't fix it.
Yeah.
A mod that comes along and changes, like, 2 lines. Like, where Goatman says, yeah, so Zelda had a vision, and in 5 years from now, you need to be ready. Like, that would solve it for me right there, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you can't mod Nintendo games easily, unfortunately. So I'm not saying that they don't have all the components to be Breath of the Wild with like 3 times big Breath of the Wild, but that doesn't necessarily, to me, mean it will. But we'll see. I'll get... And like I said, I was in this sort of because I was really enjoying the first Zonai Island, but then I was playing too much and my hand was hurting, and then I was just trying to push through it, and you know, you get frustrated and you get sort of tunnel vision. So I think if I just took a step back and then went like, let's see what happens. Yeah, I think it could be different. And I don't... A key component, you got this for me for my birthday, right? And so I don't want to sound like I'm being ungrateful or anything at all.
That's why I completely stopped myself when I was getting frustrated and checked myself. If you never play that game again, it's okay. It's like you can thank me for it, like, oh yeah, I like this game, but you do not have to worry about being grateful.
The thing is, right, even if I end up not liking Tears of the Kingdom, and I think that's a very real possibility. I think I might not end up liking it. We'll see. I hope that's not true, but it might be.
Yeah.
I would still have wanted to get that as a gift or buy it for myself, right? Because, well, it's like Aonuma and his team, you want to see their minds at work even if you don't enjoy the end result, right? Like these guys are brilliant, and you can't just... I can't just not see the sequel to Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if I hate it, it's like, I got to see what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can see that being a thing that it has the potential to make you feel defensive and to make me sound ungrateful.
Yeah. But I
whether or not that is the proper emotions to have, they can still exist.
Yes. And that's why I wanted to stop myself. Yeah. No, I don't think, though, I've ever... Like, I partly understand your issue, what you're saying. Like,
and you don't have to agree with my issue, right? I just want you to understand it, right?
Yeah, no, you have a weird issue, I think. I don't know how many other people experience that. And like you said, that some people will get lost.
And my weird issue is that
you need investment, but you want to be...
You said you can't play a game unless there's, like, you're being a hero, right? Like you said, like just an open sandbox, if there wasn't a goal or something, you wouldn't like it? You said something like that, right? Like you need to be a hero or something?
No, I don't need to be a hero, but I need a goal.
Right. But you can ignore the goal as long as you have one.
Yeah. So, you stopped playing The Witcher.
Yeah.
So, I can talk about something that happened to Saul.
Well, I'm going to try again. I got a bunch of mods and stuff now that I think will make it better. And I'm going to play differently.
Yeah.
I'm going to... Because The Witcher, they did a terrible job at it, but the way The Witcher is actually designed is that you're supposed to try to rush to each story point, and then funds are meant to stop you from getting there.
Yeah.
And then you have to take on Witcher contracts in order to have enough money to actually do these things. The problem is their economy is totally out of whack.
Yeah.
But I have a bunch of economy mods.
Okay.
So I think it'll make it more interesting because, like, the very first thing, you need 1,000 gold to enter the city.
Now I'll say this without spoilers.
Okay.
So when I got to Saul,
The Witcher is probably one of the very few games that care about story spoilers to a high degree.
Yeah. When I got to Saul, I saw a landmark, and everything else in the game left my brain, and I went to that landmark. That's one of my favorite things that I did with Tucson.
Right. But for me, potentially, it's like, I gotta find Ciri. Although I think by that point you've already found her. Because that's a DLC, right?
You can or cannot. It's...
Right. But in theory, you can play Blood and Wine after...
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Okay, but let's say I'm still looking for Ciri, and I see this landmark. I say, that's so cool. I wish I could go there, but I'm busy looking for Ciri. So, okay, yeah, so you stopped your angry rant, right? But I think I can still take a useful thing from it, right?
Yeah.
Or not angry, but whatever.
I'd say it was an angry rant.
I almost want to say defensive, almost, or something. Like, because there's the other problem, right? You love the game, I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin it for you. like I don't want to convince you that I'm right. This is something that happens a lot, actually. When you see someone argue very strongly against something like meaning, they're like, there's no meaning and everything's like a nihilist, right?
Yeah.
They really don't want to win that argument.
Yeah.
But they also get tunnel vision during it, and so they're just trying to... They want the misery, they want the company of your misery, but at the same time, they really want you to win their argument. They want you to make them believe in meaning.
Yeah, so what was the thing you can...
It's not that everything is awful. It's that there's all this cool stuff that I have to walk past.
Yeah.
It's not, this shrine sucks and this thing sucks and this...
Yeah. Although
the glue shrine did suck, I have to say. Maybe because I didn't know about the undo function, but attaching the hooks to it was really boring and fiddly. Like, I did not like that shrine at all.
You're just not creative enough to do it.
And my hooks were like off center too, so it was like kind of dangling from the rail.
Yeah, you weren't creative enough to do it, I think.
Must have been.
I found it very fun.
Did you find it? Like, I think once you get the glider and the fans and the air balloons, it gets really fun. But just
without it, I found it very fun.
Oh, you found sticking a bunch of logs together and making a ladder fun?
Oh yeah, that was great.
I
really enjoy it. It's like, this is what happened when I got to that point of the mountain. For me, it's okay. There is actually a different way up this. I knew that instinctively. Yeah. They wouldn't make you do this because game design wise, this is very finicky. So they won't make you do something finicky. And so I got the joy of, I'm going to cut down the trees in this grove and then make a tower and climb up it and skip whatever puzzle they gave me. And I was like, ho, ho, ho.
See, what happened to me was the shrine was so unbelievably finicky. Yeah. I was ready to believe. They wanted you to glue a bunch of trees together to get up that cliff. I was like, these guys have lost their marbles. They're so enamored with their glue system. They're forcing you to use it in the most annoying place possible. Like Adrian and his team have just. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Actually,
That's actually a very funny contrast in views for us. Or me, is like, I'm going to do this fancy thing. I'm going to be so clever, and you're
well,
like,
see, when I play Breath of the Wild, you know the giant caldera that surrounds the Water People Kingdom, and it's always raining, and so most people went and met whatever that red fishman's name is.
Yeah.
With that cutscene, I never saw that cutscene because I climbed up that caldera while it was raining. Because what I did was I made a huge amount of stamina potions, and then I just dinoed up the wet cliff. And like people say, you can't climb in the rain. I say they're not trying hard enough. And the difference is that with my injured hands, fiddly stuff becomes incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
But normally, I love sequence breaking. I will do something. I will spend like 10 hours doing a pointless sequence break.
Yeah.
Like there's very few people that have the patience I do to try to break something. It's kind of people that like Splunky. Maybe it's hard to find someone to play Splunky with sometimes because the patience required to try to make a glitch work in a game, or to like I break software on purpose all the time. I'm like, okay, I got it working. Now how do I break it again?
Yeah.
But
hey Connor, I want to try attaching your controller to my computer. Oh, I deleted my computer.
Well, no, I deleted the ability for all my USB ports to work.
Yeah, I deleted my computer.
And my internet was connected to my USB port, so I didn't have any way to figure out how to fix it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was...
I just wanted to play a video game with you. Now, I'm breaking my computer.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a lot of patience for that normally. But when you're hurting and you're learning all these fiddly systems...
And you're not using tooltips?
Yeah, it gets very frustrating. And so I do think a large portion of it is simply pain.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how much easier everything is when you're not in pain.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like video games. It's like you think that you have a really low tolerance for...
the world.
Yeah, or like... This wasn't exactly pain, this was depression, but it's the same idea, right? I used to, when I go downstairs, people would be eating cereal, let's say.
Yeah.
And the clinking of the spoon against the bowl would drain my reserves for the day of being able to deal with the world. Like the sound was just this piercing ringing in my ears, and I was just furious, and I wanted to punch something, and I wanted to scream, right?
Yeah.
It used up all my willpower, basically, for the day. And it was this impossible thing, and it's like, wow, I am so weak and fragile, right?
Yeah.
But then you actually get a good night's sleep. And my problem, right, why I was in this state was because I just couldn't, like, sleep did nothing for me.
Yeah.
Well, it did something. If I didn't sleep, I got tireder, but sleep didn't make me less tired.
Yeah.
So all sleep did was slow the backslide.
Yeah.
But it got worse and worse and worse over time. But once I got sleep, you hear the clink, and it's not even like I need to make my mind stronger. It's just like, oh, I don't care.
Yeah.
And so this happens, like, I'm sure you notice. You came by Saturday, and I was just frustrated for a number of reasons, and you came by around that time. And so I don't think you or I did really anything bad, and I was able to work things out and say,
yeah,
hey, I just want a bit of alone time tomorrow. That work for you? And you're like, yep. And we're like, cool. So I think that was all fine. But
well, it was this weird case for me, because when I was driving over to Water Plants, I figured, like, one thing I had the mail to give you.
Yeah.
But I figured you probably just want to be alone this weekend. And so I was thinking, all right, do I just like take the mail, put it in, and then sneak around and do the greenhouse? I was like, that might really creep you out. And so it's better to announce my presence than be a shadow walking about the yard.
Yeah. And as, in some ways, as much as I would prefer that, I saw you drive up, and I would have just been tense waiting for you to come in anyways.
Yeah.
And by you coming in...
Well, see, you wanted to see me drive up because I would have parked and walked.
Right.
Like, I knew you could hear the car come. So I would have parked at the gate all the way over there and then come in.
So yeah, you could have probably mind read me in a way that made me feel better in the moment.
But that was actually part of it, is I also decided, no, I'm not going to mind read you.
Yeah. And like, your mind read in that case was correct, right?
Yeah.
But still doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah.
And what it meant was, I was able to then say, hey, I'll handle this tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then what that meant was my next day was guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because even if I never saw you come up, I'd be wondering, wait, didn't Connor say he was going to do the plants or something? And now there's this like 5% chance he might show up.
Yeah.
But now it's like I have, by saying what I want, bought myself this free day.
Yeah.
As long as like a stepsister doesn't show up or something. But for what I can control from the Stoics' perspective, right?
Yeah.
What you can control, I did, and I set it up such, instead of it being you mind reading so I don't have to state what I want.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens, right? People do a good mind read, like you had a good mind read, and then you say this is the way it should be, and then it creates this...
And then you have to deal with this weird shadow of greenhouse water.
Well, it creates this world of everyone trying to guess what other people want.
Yeah, there's that as well.
And they mess up a lot, and then people never have to learn to gain the confidence to say what they want. So this... I don't know if you listened to That Darn Kitty's latest Thinkers show at all?
I did not.
Okay. So they got in a big... the internet here was dead for 5 days, so I wasn't on it. They got in a big fight about something. They were talking about... what's it called? A collaring ceremony? It's like this kink thing where like you put a collar on your sub to claim that they're yours. It's kind of like a marriage ceremony, but for like dominating someone.
Okay.
So one of the people there was saying, this is stupid, this is weird, this is gross. And one of the guys there, it's sort of his area of interest. I don't know if he actually does that sort of stuff, but it's kind of something he's at least very interested in and curious about.
Yeah.
And so the other like 5 people on the panel, none of them were into it, but they didn't want to just say, your area of interest is causing like the degeneration of society and you're a terrible person, right?
Yeah.
And even if they disagreed with it and said, hey, this could lead to some problems, like I could see this replacing marriage in a nasty way, let's say.
Yeah.
They wanted to say that rather than, wow, you're stupid for liking this.
Yeah.
Like you might say, do you think this is dangerous, like that you're doing? Like that's a conversation the guy would be willing to have. But saying, you're stupid for liking this, that's not a useful conversation, right?
Yeah.
So they got in this fight where... they're basically saying, no, you can't just disagree with ideas like that. Like, we're here to discuss stuff we all disagree on, but you have to do it in a respectful, civil way.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to show you the episode to get your opinion on it, that section, because to my perspective, it turned into, and we've talked about this before slightly, and I need a term for it, but one of those ego-crushing exercises where the morally right people try to educate the... so you know the thing where you don't say, hey, I don't like it when you do this. You instead say, what you did was wrong, and this is what... Like, you're trying to lecture... Like, when I lecture you, right?
Yeah. Because
you're my protege, you're my younger brother, I have to teach you about the world. But I do it in a way to benefit myself in a way where I'm afraid of something, so I'd rather lecture you about something than say what I want.
Yeah.
We've had a few situations like this, right?
Yeah, and I think I've rightfully pushed back
on
it.
Yes. And this guy that said that was stupid was rightfully pushing back on it here, in my opinion. I don't think he should have said that's stupid.
Would you call it a struggle session?
Yeah, it's a struggle session. Yeah, that's a good term for it. I think that's what I ended up calling it.
The communist struggle session, or the socialist struggle session, or the cultic playing the game struggle session.
Because really, like, what's nice about the fascists in some ways, theoretically, is when you do something against the party, they say, do that again, we'll shoot you.
Yeah.
Whereas the communists give you the struggle session.
Yeah.
It's just like, just tell me what you want.
Yeah. No.
Don't be afraid to say what you want. Just tell me what you want. So I think it turned into a bit of a struggle session. But I would have loved to get your interpretation of, was that a struggle session or not? So what I did, which I'll get your opinion on this too, which I think might be stupid, was the internet came on kind of midway through this, and I was listening to it, and I just had this sort of sick feeling growing in my stomach. Like, you do not... Like, struggle sessions are just ugly, right?
Yeah.
Like...
I've experienced quite a few, so...
I mean, yeah, like, I feel like at some point in my life I was experiencing or being the one giving them every other day, basically.
Yeah, I've received so many of them, and what's his face? The Sole Art of Not Giving an F.
Oh, Mark Manson?
Mark Manson. I was reading an article by his. I can't remember a lot of the article, but it was basically him talking about it, helped part of it in my brain, and then No More Mr. Nice Guy completely solidified it. And I hope... I wonder if a lot of people miss this part of No More Mr. Nice Guy or not, because self-help is very weird. Because if you get it, then you get that area of it. But anyways, it's he was saying that people vomit negative emotion at you.
Yes, that's perfect description.
Yeah, no, and so that's like the narcissist, like they have all this inside them.
They make it about everything instead of about one thing.
Yeah, and they vomit it onto you. And
that's what Jordan Peterson said. It's not that they don't say hi to you. It's that they don't say hi to you, and they don't do the dishes, and they don't have their hair on right, and they never loved you, and they're going to leave you for another man, and they're going to, and it, because this one little thing becomes every negative thing they've ever thought about you.
Yeah,
it becomes this huge thing where and if you do it with a person you're trying to mentor, it turns into this like, oh, we're just talking about philosophy, except everything that you think about philosophy is wrong, and you need to agree with me. So Benjamin Anonymous, or Benjamin the Dream Wizard, he left a quote around the same time, and he was watching, but I don't think it was meant to be related. But it's something like, a submissive person lets other people have their own opinions for them. An aggressive person tells other people what their opinions are, like forces other people to have their own opinion. You're not happy until someone else agrees with you. And then he said, what was it? An assertive person states what their opinion is for themselves, and that is enough. They don't care what anyone else has an opinion. Like, they don't care what other people think. And not caring what people think, it's not, I don't care that you disagree with my thoughts. It's, I don't care that I disagree with your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's the thing they missed in school. It was, don't care what others think. It's like, yes, that's true. But what that means is you shouldn't care that they think bad things. Like, you shouldn't care that they have wrong beliefs. And you don't need to change other people.
Well, I think the third part of this, and I've talked about this before, so there's like the Mark Manson. Yeah. And then there's No More Mr. Nice Guy. I think the third part was Jordan Peterson.
Smallest possible thing.
In his second book. It wasn't the smallest possible thing.
Well, I think that totally is applied, though.
Yeah, that's part of it. But it was him basically saying that this person's still a child. It's like when someone acts like this, they are he's talking about basically, because he studied child psychology and its application to adults. And it's saying, when someone behaves like this, they are behaving at the same level as a 3-year-old.
Yes.
What 3-year-olds do is, like, you have to socialize a 3-year-old. And you talk about the process of socializing a 3-year-old, but it's basically like, everything is about them. The whole world is wrapped up in a 3-year-old. And they don't know how to properly express themselves. And so when you encounter an older person, they're emotionally immature.
So the thought process that's going on in your mind right there is, I desperately need you to understand me. Yeah. And if you understood me, you would agree with me. Yeah. Not realizing you can understand people and not agree with them. Yeah. And I actually think, did I talk about this on the podcast? How when I lost my pillow, that was like my perfect sleeping pillow. I was 12 or something, but I just went on this massive whining tirade for like hours and hours because nobody was, I don't know, giving me my pillow back. It's like, if you cared, you would be right there with me, but instead you're telling me to shut up and go to sleep. I want you to suffer like I'm suffering so you understand my pain. Mm. And I think...
well, the suffer like I'm suffering is the crippled God.
Maybe I'm wrong here. Let's say when you're in your case, when you were playing a board game when you were young, right? Yeah. And nobody cared that you were... Is this right? Nobody cared that you were losing, and so you have to sort of express your suffering so that people will care, or something along those lines.
Oh no, I wasn't that Machiavellian.
Well, it's not exactly Machiavellian. No, it's more childish than Machiavellian.
Yeah, no, that wasn't. It was childish, but it wasn't childish like that. That I think was I wasn't getting my way. It's not that. That was the narrative is I win. Yeah. And that's not happening. Right. That's what that was.
That feels related to me somehow. It is. I'm not quite sure how to make the link, but it does feel like there's a connection.
No, there is a connection to that there. But it's not quite that I'm not winning, so you must experience the not winning. It's more of, the universe is not bending to my will, so I will hurt things until it does.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a similar idea. But
it's a different part of the Dark Triad, I think.
I had this thought of
it's a different area of that evil emotion and childishness.
I had this thought that cluster B and cluster B type personality disorder actions all kind of just stem down to the inability to deal with disappointment.
A little.
Like, because one of the key components is something called splitting, which is that things are all good or all bad. So I can give an example. When you showed up to give me the card into water, the sort of first thought in my mind was my day is ruined. Like, I just wanted this weekend to myself, and now it's all over. It's ruined.
I was thinking to myself, like, Cameron should stay all peacefully, and then his big little brother just barges in. It's just like walking around.
But you did nothing wrong, right? Like, you were doing the opposite of wrong. You were giving me a card. You were giving me my mail, and you were taking care of the garden like you'd been asked to.
Yeah.
Or I'm not even sure if you were asked and you're just doing
asked.
it. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was sent a message, and so I was like, oh, yeah, I gotta go do that. And then actually I was there, I was like, oh, shoot, it's 7 o'clock. And it was cold this morning, but today got ridiculously hot. And so I went to the garden, and I was actually freaked out when I was doing the watering, because everything was so dry in the greenhouse.
That was the other aspect of it. I was like, okay, had a whole day to myself, just going to settle in for the evening, and why is someone driving up today?
Yeah.
But no, you did nothing wrong. But what happened was, okay, my whole day is ruined. And it's just all, and Connor's a horrible person. He's a demon that was sent to Earth to test and torment me. Because every time I spend a day or two gathering the strength from my injury to just be able to sit down and relax and play Skyrim, and it's always Skyrim, I open up the game and he appears.
That's a pretty cool superpower.
Well, I was thinking I could utilize that. But then I played Skyrim yesterday when I asked, hey, can you not show up? And you didn't. So obviously my whole view of the world's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And you're probably not a demon sent to Earth to torment me and test me or something.
Whew, close one. You almost had to be there.
And so what splitting is things are all good or all bad.
Yeah.
And I was doing it there. And so what the answer is, no. And this is the thing that Teal Swan talks about. You have to experience your emotions before you can do anything about them.
Yeah.
And I think experiencing your emotions is different from catharsis, right?
Yeah.
So catharsis would be you leave and I go like, ah, and I start punching a punching bag to get it out, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that works. But what happened was you left. I'm a little embarrassed to admit this. I screamed at the top of my lung, just, no! Like, my day was going so well. No! Right?
Yeah.
Don't worry. This isn't a thing against you. It gets better. I expressed all my rage and frustration and my, like, I wanted this thing to myself, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't just, like, I knew, even at the time, you got to be mature. You know, you can't take it on Connor. It's not his fault. This is a good thing. It doesn't matter. You have to feel what you're feeling in order to move on, and in order to know where you are so you know where to go. Like, look, if you're in the middle of, if you want to go someplace, right? I want to head to Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
I have to know I'm north of Hawaii first.
Yeah.
You have to know where you are in order to know where to go. So you have to experience your emotions. That's what most problems are. This is the inability to deal with disappointment. You are refusing to feel your emotions. So what I did was I felt my emotions. I was frustrated. I was disappointed. I was like, oh, this sucks. I did that. This wasn't a catharsis of punching something. This wasn't just me screaming senselessly. This was me expressing what I felt, which was this disappointment. I did that, and then almost immediately I was like, okay, what can I take from this? So, okay, I'm splitting. It doesn't have to be all good and all bad. You know, everything's gray. Your day had a 15-minute interruption. That does not negate the rest of your day, and that does not before this, and that does not negate the rest of your day after this. And on top of that, you were even able to have a conversation with your brother who was so awesome that he was just like, yeah, sure, no problem, when you asked him a favor.
Do you know that conversation was incredibly difficult?
Why?
Because you were facing away from me.
Yeah.
And I know you don't like repeating yourself. And you were speaking kind of low because I think you were upset. And so I went upstairs like, all right, I'm leaving now.
No, so this is
more. And so you said something low. And I was like, I couldn't actually hear you. Like
No. So what happened with the loaf thing?
Yeah.
This is part of your superpower. I had eaten a bunch of undercooked plantains, so my voice was the worst it was basically that whole weekend at that moment.
Yeah.
So I was least able to ask for what I needed when I had to ask for what I needed.
Yeah. So, and
so I actually spoke, and my voice was like when you got a hoarse voice.
Yeah. So I could barely hear you. I know you didn't like repeating yourself, and I was like, all right, I think he's a little upset. And so,
and I want to be very clear. I'm not upset at you.
Yeah.
I'm upset at the situation that I found myself in, even though it was no one's fault. And for a sane person under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be a problem in the first place.
Yes, but in the moment, it's like, all right.
And I want to say, I really appreciate you being cool about all that. And
well,
yeah.
But I think the difficulty is kind of funny. I interpret this is so you said something low, and I think I only said it once. Could you say it again? And you didn't say it again. It's like, all right, what did he just say? Okay, the first syllable sounded a bit like this. The second syllable said a bit, and the end you said it like that. So I replied to you, I guess you just said. Then you said something else, like, I have no idea what I just said. And so I said what I think I should respond to whatever he mumbled. Then you said the final thing, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, what on earth is he saying?
Yeah, it's just it's a hard situation all around. Yeah. But yeah, so I caught myself with this, like, no. People can do things that annoy you, and they can even do bad things. You didn't do a bad thing here, but they can even do bad things. That doesn't make them bad people, and it doesn't mean they're all bad or all good, right? Like, you can do a good thing, that doesn't mean they're perfect and they're the only good thing in your life. You know what I find disgusting is, and I don't know if everyone does this or just me, but thinking that the only relationship someone else has is to you. Like, I haven't seen my friend up the road for ages, right? And it's like, oh, I'm such a bad friend. He must be so lonely. It's like, he has other friends. He has a lot of other friends.
Yeah.
And he's got like 2 jobs and he volunteers everywhere. He's a very, very busy person.
Yeah.
Right? Me not seeing him, that's, well, I don't know. It's not a bad thing for him or me in a way. It's like, he's not going to be low. It's not my job to make him not lonely.
Yeah.
But also, even if it was, I'm not the only person in his life, right?
Yeah.
And so what I find gross is, first of all, thinking that you're the only person in that person's life. You're the only, and so you have to do everything for them.
Yeah.
But also someone treating you like you're the only person that can do anything for them. Like, you're the only person that can be my friend. You're the only person that... Because when someone treats me like that, that is objectification. And I understand why people don't like objectification. Like, it is the most disgusting feeling ever.
Yeah.
It's like, what the feeling is... You are I get from the other person, you are the biggest loser who has ever existed, and I am made lesser by being in your presence because no one is judging but me, and I myself just think you are a despicable worm, right? Like, I hate that feeling so much.
No, when I'm objectified, it's just people saying I have a really hot body.
Well, see, I think that's a different thing. Weirdly, and maybe this is just not true, but let's say you look at like a model that's attractive, right? They are the embodiment of like Aphrodite, let's say, in that moment. The person doesn't matter so much as their beauty.
Yeah.
You are not making that person an object of desire. You are making their beauty an emblem of desire. Yeah. It's almost separate. So the equivalent maybe you could say is that this person is like Hestia. They represent friendship and kinship or something. Yeah. But if they represent friendship and kinship, that doesn't mean they are its source and they are the only one. Like if I think of a person, say, that person's a good friend, or wow, that person's really good looking. That isn't the same as saying you are my beauty object, or you are my...
Yes, you are my light.
Yeah, you are my light.
That's a very common one, is you are my light.
Yeah. You are my light, you are my life, I can't go on without you. So...
The you are my life is actually particularly insidious.
Yeah, it's like, what a loser.
Well, it's not even what a loser.
It's like, get a life. Get your own life.
Yeah, get your own life. But if you really think about it, like, I friend talked about before, but their parents, like, you are my life. And, like, talking the interpretation of it, but just, you are everything that I have. Yeah. Without you, I am nothing. Well, but what that means is without you, I am nothing. How dare you leave me because you destroy me?
How dare you live your own life? It's the devouring mother.
Yeah.
No, I talked to her mom about this, and I think we are in agreement now. I talked to her about it years later once both of us, figured it out and matured and everything else. But when I was really depressed in Victoria, she said something along the lines of like, if you killed yourself, I would be really upset or something like that. And at the time I felt this, and then later I understood this feeling, right? And we talked about it and we agreed. But at the time it was just sort of like, oh great, another burden to add to the list. Because it's like, I don't even get my death. Like, at least give me the dignity of choosing if I can live or die, right? So I really think that a person should be allowed to commit suicide. Like, they shouldn't have to worry. If anything, if you love someone who commits suicide, they should be able to rest easy knowing that you will take care of the paperwork and maybe the mess and the talking to people, and without resenting you. Like, if someone kills himself and now you have to do all this paperwork and you have to live in this house where they hung themselves, I think the sign of love is not you shouldn't have killed yourself. It's that I don't resent you for taking the out that you needed to. Like, I think resenting someone for killing themselves is a very cruel thing.
I don't know if I can agree with that, but my objection isn't the same, I think, that a lot of people's objection is. I wouldn't resent the person for leaving a mess for me, or even like dying and choosing that out. I would resent the suicide itself.
Because I don't think you have ownership over their life, and I think that extends to the fact that you don't have ownership over their death.
Yeah, I don't have ownership over that. Maybe resent's the wrong term.
You could be upset about it.
Yeah, no, it's not upset. So what would you say you have? Would you have resentment against a pedophile for like molesting your child?
Yes, probably.
Yeah, would you have resentments against like a cannibal eating someone?
Probably. I'm less certain there.
And would you have resentment against a murderer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying more the sin of suicide?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, they are a murderer.
Yeah.
You have defiled nature or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah. So it's not the fact that they killed themselves, it's that they killed a person.
Yeah, that they committed a crime.
See, I think, like, we when we went to Kant, right, and we said Kant is illogically inconsistent unless you say that there are infinite, impossible to label variations to everything.
But then again, even with that statement,
not all killing is evil.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. So, the ending of Lord of the Rings, in one of the appendices.
Yeah, the very end of the appendices. Yeah, Aragorn kills himself.
He doesn't kill himself, but he lies down and dies.
That's basically suicide.
He says, it is my grace to choose the time of which I die.
Is it like when someone walks out into a blizzard? They're not killing themselves. They're letting themselves die, you could say, right?
So, what he says to her, because his wife's immortal, well, actually she isn't, but anyways, what he says to her is, I could stay and last on the long years and become a dotard and wither away and be lesser than I was and have all remember me as a lesser and dead man. Or I could go now to the home of my forefathers and lie down and take the grace that was given to me and choose my own time of death, as is my right.
Yeah, so you can see every moment of life as a struggle to stay alive, and you can give up that fight and die, right?
Yeah.
But you could say the same with suicide, is that you're just giving up that fight. Like, you're fighting every moment, and then, like, you could just stop breathing. Like, you could just hold your breath, and you probably... I don't think that will ever kill you. It might, very rarely, but because you'll just start breathing when you're unconscious. But
yeah, it is a cognitive dissonance that I have.
Like, I don't think all killing is wrong. I actually think that the abortion debate could be very greatly resolved by just saying not all killing is evil. Like, yes, it's murder, and maybe we have to do it anyways.
Well, that's what the UK does. That's what they actually said. It is murder, but you can do it at these points.
And I think
that's a...
Terry Pratchett, when he did it so naturally. I don't even know if he was trying to like have a moralistic point or not, or if it was just part of the story, because it was so naturally done. But he had this woman who, during childbirth, there was this complication, and it was the doctor could either save her or the child, and the doctor decided to save her.
Yeah.
And he said to the husband, like, don't tell her I did this, or maybe he said it to someone else and didn't tell either the husband or wife, but he said basically, look, she'll be able to have more children, and instead of that child growing up without a mother.
That's funny, because in another book series that I wanted you to read, The Dragonbone Chair, the character is an orphan, and his mother was really sick and dying in childbirth, and the doctor came, Dr. Morganis came, there's a flashback, and they're saying, like, please save the child. It's like, this is nonsense, she can have more children, that's Dr. Morganis' opinion. And then he finds out who she is and who the child is, and it's like, oh shoot, I have to save the child in this case.
So if she's sick and dying, that's a bit different from a young, healthy mother.
Well, no, she was healthy, but he is basically like, for him, it was, I can put my effort into either saving her,
or like a child of prophecy type,
or saving the child of my best friend who died. Because her husband was dead.
Right. If he
recently died.
If there's no father, it's a different story. Yeah.
Because she was even saying to Morganis, like, please save the child. He's like, no, I'm going to save you. And that's like, oh wait, you're this person.
Yeah. If there's no father anymore, it's a different story. But typically what you could say, and it's never an easy choice, obviously, but what you can say is, a child, their odds of survival are so much lower already than a young mother, right? That even if you save the child at the cost of the mother, that child might not live another year. Whereas the mother is almost certainly going to live and almost certainly going to have another child.
Well, also, if we go with the selfish gene theory, which this is...
Well, yeah, the most likely way
Dawkins.
The most likely way to continue your line is to save the mother.
It's not even the most likely way to continue your line. We're just going purely genetically. Your child only has 50% of your genes. So to make it a worthwhile gambit, to make it equal, it has to be at least 2 children saved. Like, you can do... He talks about these whole calculations of how does this appear in a society, altruism. So, saving your brother is equivalent to saving a parent.
Right.
So you have to save 2 siblings. And then a cousin, you'd have to save 4 cousins to be equivalent to you.
Isn't it possible for siblings to not share any
Yeah, it is
DNA?
Possible, but this is like just certain levels of math.
Like it's not likely, but...
Yeah, so this is basically a theory. It's the self-gene theory to explain things.
And there'd have to be...
Like, bees are really weird, because... so, each worker bee is actually... so they're sterile, right? And they're all female. But genetically, so their mother... Their choices, so their mother has an established house, so they could have gone and had their own children, and they'd have difficulty surviving in this location, but their mother has established health, and there's a bunch of them there. So genetically, it is better for them to basically isolate their mother and have her trapped in a building, constantly bringing her food and everything she needs, so she can continuously clone them in sisters, because they're only going to have one father.
Yeah.
And so they basically want tons and tons of clones of themselves from their mother. And that's the best thing for them genetically to ensure their genes ready.
So, did you know, so calico cats, they have like weird swirling 2 colors on them, right?
Yeah.
They're only female. And that's because the color of their fur is determined by their X chromosome.
Yeah.
And so what happens with them... How's this work exactly? They have 2 different X chromosome pairs.
Yeah.
So they actually have 2 sets of DNA in one body. And humans can actually do this too, but only human women. They can actually have 2 sets of DNA.
Yeah.
So there was a case of... How'd that work? It was like a parentage test on a woman they did or something, and they took a sample of her blood, and she wasn't related to her kid, but then they took it from like a different arm and she was, or something like that. Huh. Something like that. But I do wonder, that also changes the odds a little bit. Like, your kid, you need like 4 kids just in case you're calico.
Yeah, but the more I learn about biology from the selfish gene, they're all basically just doing math. Like, biology is actually determined a lot by math.
Like those Punnett squares are quite cool. Where you determine the eye color.
But know that whole joke that XKCD did with like all the scientists, the supreme one's the mathematician?
That said, I slightly disagree.
He also disagrees. Richard Dawkins disagrees.
Because we, our models are very mathy.
Yeah.
But there's always these weird things that don't quite make sense. Yeah. Like, this person doesn't need this much sleep. And, well, some people just don't need that much sleep. And it doesn't make sense under our models. And then we learn about stuff like epigenetics, right? Yeah. And it's like, or we learn, what was Jordan Peterson talking about? The more situations you put yourself into that are out of your, the more unique situations you put yourself into, the more genes you activate or something. Yeah. And you actually structurally change, I guess it'd be your epigenetics, right? But you're essentially turning, and maybe he gets a lot of things very weirdly simplified and wrong, and to create a story a lot of the time. But from that perspective, you're activating your DNA by doing things. Yeah, it's sort of like a mutation. It's sort of like Pokemon evolution. Yeah. So I've heard people say we're just wet robots or squishy robots. I don't think that's true. I think we are far more complicated than we might ever know.
One of the things that is right near the beginning of the book, which is someone reading this book might despair, finding themselves agree with it too much. Yeah. And that we're completely controlled by our genetics and our genes. However, humans use contraception. And that completely nullifies.
And we choose to, yeah.
Yeah, we choose to.
I was actually thinking, right? Since the invention of contraception, the most effective way to ensure your lineage continues is to treat your children poorly enough that they want to prove you wrong with their own children. And so thereby they're compelled to have their own children to be better parents than you were. But you can't treat your children so poorly that they give up on the enterprise altogether.
I think that...
Because a lot of people that have really great parents, they're like, yeah, I'm content with my life and I don't need children. But if you make it something that they have something to prove and they want to make the world a better place. Like, if the world's already a good place,
I think that the parents failed in that way to not make them think that having children is a good thing. Because
I think some people just have different goals altogether.
I think some people do, yes.
And you can maybe override that by just abusing them just enough that they want to make the world a better place. Yeah. Because without contraception, you don't need to worry about it. It just sort of happens naturally or not. But it was just a dumb thought I had. So there was this conversation where I saw this struggle session thing going on. And it was making me feel kind of sick to my stomach. And maybe it wasn't a struggle session. Unfortunately, the video's been taken down. So I can't show it to you.
Because I was going to suggest that we just pause and watch it.
Yeah. So what I did, which I think might have been a bad idea, because there's a lot of reasons it's bad to give unsolicited advice. From your perspective, it's just a way to make yourself feel better.
There's a Foil Arms and Talk about basically...
Superior, sorry, not better.
It's a sketch of all those people who are helpful in air quotations, and they like make a little song and dance of it. And it's really well put together. All these people like, I don't understand why everyone hates me. I'm just trying to be nice.
So yeah, when you give people unsolicited advice, you are talking about situations you know less about than them. So you're just biting your head in where you're not actually useful. You're doing it to make yourself feel superior, whether you realize it or not. It's don't look too good or act too wise, right? Yeah. You're sort of putting yourself above someone. You're making them an idiot in your mind and theirs. Yeah. And they feel that and they resent you for it. And you're also just you're butting in on stuff that isn't any of your business. But it's also like, I've gotten bad advice from doctors and I get ticked off at them, but at least I went to like, hey, can you help me? Yeah. So at least they're giving me solicited advice. But I also get so much unsolicited advice. And they're like, why don't you just work more? Why don't you...
I get solicited advice to give to you. And I think, like, I don't know where that falls on the level of annoyingness or of, like, solicited advice, but it's like, hey, can you give this person this advice? So it's like, he's told me he doesn't want advice. Let off.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. It's just, yeah. I mean, that just gave me a jolt there of, like, anger. I was just like... But yeah, because people tell me like, oh, you just need to work and you need to do this and it's like, look, if you are giving me advice because you think my pain levels are at this level that I can do this, then you have no idea what I'm feeling. So yeah, unsolicited advice, generally recommend it.
You recommend it?
Generally recommend against it.
Okay.
But what I did, right or wrong, was while the struggle session was going on, I jumped into the call. So I jumped because I did it for a number of reasons. Because I thought just my presence, just arriving in a disruptive manner, sometimes it forces your mind to stop and reset. There's this...
Would you like some tea? You say that to an angry person.
Yeah, you can just typically not the person yelling at you, but if you're a third party, you jump in like, anyone want some tea?
Yeah.
And then suddenly everyone's like, what tea? What tea? And then they're looking at you. And suddenly, because people get tunnel visioned when they argue.
Yeah.
And so you just need this disruption. So I thought that was just a value. Like me showing up, whether I did anything or not, was just valuable in of itself for that, potentially. But also, I don't know, if you see someone getting, like, let's say, kicked on the street, telling people, hey, whoa, what's going on? I don't see that as unsolicited advice so much as like, I'm protecting you from yourself and I'm protecting them from you.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit different. Now, of course, I could be wrong that it was a struggle session. But so I jumped in and said, it's very easy to abuse your position as a mentor. And what you should do is just say smallest possible thing, right? What do you actually want from them?
Yeah.
He said, well, we want to be able to talk about this without hurting people's feelings. And I said, okay, can you do that? And he's like, no, I want to say what I believe. I said, okay, do you need to say it multiple times? Like you can say, okay, that's stupid and move on.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, okay, so between you and me, how would we do this? Because I was talking about UFOs and you interrupted me and said that's stupid. And so I said, okay, what am I supposed to... Okay, you are on a talk show. When you say that, what's the next step? What are we supposed to do here? We're on a talk show. How do you want this to go? Do you want it to be a not talk show? Right, I didn't do that part, right? I just said, okay, so this is a talk show. When you say that, what do you want to happen? He said, well, I guess I want you to stop talking about the stupid thing. I said, okay, so we're agreeing to disagree. That's what Benjamin the Dream Wizard, he threw in. He's like, you can agree to disagree. And it's like, yeah, okay. So when you're saying that's stupid, you're saying, I don't know why I don't like this, but I don't like this. Can we stop talking about it? And I said, okay, we can try that out. So if you tell me it's stupid, I'll just stop and then we'll talk about something else, or I'll talk to someone else about that topic. And so that was sort of the agreement we came to there. Now, why did I bring this up in the first place? This we were talking about,
my statement on Tears of the Kingdom?
No, we were talking about Cluster B.
Yeah, Cluster B, sorry.
Was that after or before we started this? And we were talking about the nice guy thing of inability to deal with disappointment. We were talking about an inability to deal with disappointment and how
childishness.
You showed up.
Right, yes, I showed up.
And
you expressed your emotion. You screamed.
I needed to feel my emotion.
Yeah, you screamed.
Well, it wasn't the scream that was important.
You screamed like a little bitch.
No, it wasn't the scream that was important. It was the despair.
Yeah.
The scream was a side effect of the despair. But I let myself feel despair.
Yeah.
I didn't just push it aside and say, no, that would be silly to feel.
Yes.
I feel it, and now I'm in despair. I experienced the full thing, and now I can keep going.
Yes.
Because I now know where I am. I'm not just ignoring my emotion.
Yeah.
I'll keep going with this, with the story, I guess, but I'm just trying to remember where because I brought this up to tie into a point there.
Well,
but
maybe it'll tie in when you get to the end.
Maybe it will. So I showed how you can do that, and I think that went down okay. Like they said, oh, Cameron the bridge builder, you come on, you do this, that's great, and that's maybe.
Sort of. Don't put your forked tongue back between your teeth trying to honey and butter me up. I think not.
No.
Big on!
No, I don't think I was that bad. No, and it's nice to say nice things, but what I mean by that is just, look, it's false humility to deny the praise, right?
Yep.
But you can't change other people, and in a lot of ways you can't actually help them even. You can just give them the sword to fight the monsters themselves.
Yeah.
And so if I did anything there, it didn't mean that I was responsible for any of the good or bad, or, well, maybe bad, but the good things that come from there, you can't, like, we don't say that the Lady of the Lake founded Camelot because she gave King Arthur a sword or something like that.
Oh my goodness, that's like a paper that you could write as like one of those critical race theory, not critical race theory, what's it called? The postmodern.
Yeah.
You could write a postmodern article about...
Postmodern feminist article about how the Lady of the Lake is actually responsible for... Well, there's this book, what's it called? Winter Spell or something? It's about how Morgan Le Fay was actually the good guy in the Arthurian tales, and...
She can be a sympathetic villain, but that's the most I'll give her.
Yeah, because, like, deceptively... while doing all sorts of nasty things.
Yeah, that's what I say. She can be a sympathetic villain. That's the most I'll give her.
Yeah. But
like, even the retellings of it, there was a retelling of a TV series I think Netflix did back when they were still doing good TV series. And, like, a whole lot went wrong for her to make her the villain. But she was still definitely a villain. Like, as a sympathetic villain, it's like, all these steps paved to hell, and that's why she became evil. But she was evil.
Were you disappointed by Clariel by Garth Nix? Where Clore of the Mask is this mysterious necromancer in the main series, and then they do her backstory in Clariel, and it's like, oh, she was this ordinary girl, and then she goes on this killing spree. It's like, wait, whoa, what's going on here? Like, it's basically, the thing is the assumption is she was a psychopath the whole time or something. Like,
yeah,
like, and she was sort of forced into it, like the high magic. She just kept going deeper and deeper into it.
Yeah,
it's like a drug addict, I guess. Almost
pure magic. It's not high, it's pure.
Yeah. But it's like a drug addict almost. Yeah. You just sort of keep free magic.
Yeah, free magic, that's it.
You do one, and then you need to do the other to get you out of it, and then you need deeper and deeper and deeper. But it was like ordinary story for 3/4 of the book, and then in the last little bit, she just kind of goes mad and starts freeing like these dragons and conquering the world.
Yeah.
And then she's like I don't know what happened, because her power... over the course of like 10 minutes, basically, because she's capturing free magic creatures and then using them to capture stronger ones. Like, she's a Pokemon master. Mm-hmm. So over the course of literally like 10 minutes, she becomes massively more powerful. But then by the time of the Aberson series, she died, she got the mask, and she's a necromancer, and she's serving a much more powerful necromancer.
Yeah. I think her dying might have made her weaker.
But it's like, what? It's like, okay, so you've made an entire book about her backstory, about Clore of the Mask, and you missed the whole mask bit, and the necromancer bit, and the dying bit, and when Hedge was the guy that took her over, right?
Yeah.
Maybe she gets the masks at the very...
She got the mask in the end of the book. Her face was burnt and fused to her face because she's using free magic.
But that's the kind of like, this is the backstory of Han Solo.
And some random person called him Solo.
It's like, why can't that just be his name?
Yeah.
Like, we don't actually want, oh, she had a reason for the mask. It's like, no, we don't actually want that. We want, why do they call her Clore of the Mask?
Yeah.
What did she do to earn the name? It's not, oh, what's the story behind Indiana Jones's hat? It's like, no, he likes the hat. We don't.
Yeah.
A lot of things do the backstory wrong. Obviously there. But what the heck happened? Conversation. Then Kitty and Gray, who were, in my opinion, initiating the struggle session there, were saying, okay, yeah, we went too far there. Like, we do want it to be a place where you can only have these conversations where you can have these conversations without anyone being rude to each other.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want. And I said, okay, sometimes it takes you like a week to figure out how to do this. Like, what I do typically is I'm really angry for like 3 or 4 days or like a week. And I just write these massive rants on pieces of paper or like type it up. And then I condense it, I summarize it, and then I go, okay, what is my thesis here? What do I want? And then I take that and I say, okay, this is what I want. And I say, okay, is that the smallest possible thing I want? I say, no, I can ask for less and still get what I want. And I do that, and then I say, refine that. Okay, this is what I want. And then I say, okay, here's the thing that I need, right? And I go and I ask the person, and it's...
Then they say, up yours, old man, or they agree with it.
Yeah, and if they say, up yours, old man, then don't associate with them, because if this is what you need to live your life, then it's what you need to live your life. A new thing I've thought of is it's better to feel guilt than resentment. Like, you get a message from someone and you'd feel guilty if you don't reply, but you really don't want to. You'd like be kind of like resentful if you reply. Just don't reply. It's better to feel guilt than resentment.
Yeah.
I think it's actually something to live by. So
regret rather than resent.
Not regret, guilt.
Okay.
I think regret's different.
No.
But better regret than resentment too, probably. I don't really think they are in opposition often.
Yeah, I think regret and resentment can be in the same boathouse.
Yeah. I think they're kind of similar things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So better to feel guilt than regret, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they said, yeah, we went out of hand here, but we need this to be a place where we can have these conversations. And so that ended, and they ended up kicking him out of the group to some degree, to some small extent. I'm not sure to what extent. They haven't really talked about it. And they said, well, Cameron said, you have to know what you want, and we want this, and we can't have those conversations with him, so this is how we want to set it up. And I sent a message saying, I don't think you should kick him out of it, because you have to tell him what you want first, and then see what he... If he then says, no, I'm not going to agree to these terms, then you kick him out.
Yeah.
Or if he says, well, not even then. You can say, okay, I don't agree to these terms, so I guess I won't be on the show. But that... See, there's two ways to respect boundaries, right?
Yeah.
I can say, look, if you want to be around me, you need to do this. And you can respect my boundaries in two ways. You can do this when you're around me, or you can say, okay, I need to do this, so I'm not going to be around you. Both of those are respectful.
Yeah.
The non-respectful thing is to not do that thing while you're around me.
Yeah.
So you need to tell the person, okay, be polite when you're on the show. And then he can be respectful and say, okay, I'll be polite when I'm on the show. Or he'll say also politely, okay, I won't go on the show.
Yeah.
Now, you can only give boundaries to people you trust because you're being vulnerable with them.
Yes.
But the thing about when you give a boundary to a person you trust, it's kind of creepy. You were talking about this last time, I think, but ask and you shall receive.
Yeah.
Like, you get what you want.
Yes.
And it's terrifying.
Yep.
Basically, whatever you want, you can have. And that's why we don't ask for it, because we know that. And we don't want to be responsible for getting all this horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you get everything you ask for, you are responsible for every bad thing that happens to you.
It's actually,
And so it's easier to hide from that.
Larian has done a remarkable job of writing Baldur's Gate 3. Of literally, they have the ask and you will receive in it. Like, I don't know how they managed it in writing, considering, like, so much in the controversy around it. But it's literally, like...
Well, Larian are brilliant writers,
yeah, but
I've always thought.
It's literally of that concept of, like, yeah, you'll get what you ask for. And it will be horrible. Or if you ask for a good thing, it will be good. But it's like, if you play the game by being earnest and not two-faced, your character can sleep with a good conscience while the world burns.
Or they can sleep with a bear.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But there's literally a quest where you feel like every single step of the way you've done the right thing, and the end, like when I got to the end of it, like this quest you initiate at the beginning of the game, and the results only appear at the end, and it's like, oh shoot, what I did made a really bad thing happen. But my actions leading up to it, like content-wise, everything I did up to it was the right thing.
But for example, this is I think this is sort of what ties back to what we were talking about before a little bit. But let's say they say to the guy, Calvin is his name. Let's say they say to Calvin, you have to be polite if you're on our show.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, I'll do that. They have now restricted his speech, and they are aware of that every time they have a conversation about something he's uncomfortable with. And they also no longer get the banter of him disagreeing with something. They no longer get that different personality of him there. And so if they ask for that and they get everything they wanted, then they lose everything that they might have, and you might be scared, but do I actually like this or not? And so I really do think that's why we don't ask for what we want. And I think that's where maybe that ties into the cluster B again, the inability to deal with disappointment. You will be disappointed if you get what you want and you don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I asked for a Kindle for my birthday and I got it.
I was about to say that.
And it sucked. The Kindle the Kindle Oasis, turns out it doesn't work for me. I'm sure for some people it's amazing, but for me it didn't work at all. And it was like, man, this is a really nice gift. These things aren't cheap. They're not easy to get. And just without a second thought, I was given one basically, because I put it on a list as a sort of like completely moonshot sort of gift. And I got one and I was like, didn't like it. And it's like, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
It's scary to ask for things because you get them. Yeah. And so I think that's why cluster Bs don't ask for things.
Well, that was the case when I was asked, what do you want? And I just sit on the list like that ridiculously expensive Lego set. So I want that, but I don't expect to get it. And I was actually scared of potential getting it. So there is so much else that you could have spent that on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I think if you have an inability to deal with disappointment, you don't ask for anything. I asked you, hey, can you not show up tomorrow? But what if I'm feeling lonely tomorrow and I actually want you to show up, or I actually can't water the garden, and I need you to water the garden? I get what I asked for, whether or not it's what I want, right?
Yeah.
And so if you have this inability to deal with disappointment,
well, yeah, part of that for me, I had like the fleeting thought of, does he know how to water the greenhouse properly? And like, will he be able to do that without hurting himself? That was like some thoughts for me. It was like, well, he asked for it, so I'll let him deal with it.
Come on, I've been watering gardens since before a few years, for probably at least a decade and a half, probably more.
Yeah.
Let's see, since I was probably, 10? 18 years. All right, where's my coffin? I'll just hop on in.
Come now, you've got like at least...
Got another 10 in you. Yeah. No, I made it past 27. I'm feeling good. That one was it's superstitious maybe, but it was doing me a concern.
What's the 27?
A lot of artists and musicians and whatnot die at 27.
Oh yeah, but see, you weren't that famous, so...
I don't know if it matters or not. But actually, I also do know, if you look at the stats, it's clustered around 27. So it's like 26 and 28 are also super high.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's the 27 that's the story bit.
All right.
So even though the 26 and 28 are basically as high, it doesn't matter. It's 27 is the one that counts. So if you have an inability to deal with disappointment, you won't ask for anything because that can lead to disappointment that's completely your fault, which means instead you want the entire world to be full of mind readers. And so your morality system becomes making everyone else around you mind readers. And you say, hey, that's impolite. Rather than saying, I need you to do this, you say, whoa, that's wrong that you're doing it, instead of explicitly saying you shouldn't do these things.
Yeah.
And everyone has a different thing, and different tacks in life, right? Like you and Romney, to a degree, will do stuff, you less so, but we'll say like, oh, that's stupid, or that's lame, or that's whatever. Like, well, maybe not you at all, even, come to think of it. Hard to say.
I tend not to.
No, what I'll say about you is that you will very strongly disagree with a concept without knowing why.
Yes, I will do
You
that.
will jump to the finish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you often are right when you jump to the finish, but you are also often respectful about it. But you're also a bit of a freak where you like change your mind mid. I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast. I've talked about how you can change your mind, and it's very impressive. But I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast how I used to get angry at you, like when I was 6 or something, and I'd say, Mom, Connor said this, and she'd be like, Connor, do you think this? And you're like, no, I changed my mind. I was like, you can't change your mind. I'm mad at you for saying that. You're not allowed to change. I saw it as super Weasley. It's like, you're just trying to avoid whatever. It's like, no. It's like, okay, you're right. I was like, no, you can't say I'm right. You believe this, and I'm angry at you for it. It's like, no, you're right. You're right.
Maybe my Weasleyness turned into actually good.
Or maybe it wasn't Weasley at all.
No, I would be upset with myself if I said something was, oh, that's stupid, or just a dismissal of not saying this is why you're stupid. Like just a stupid full stop doesn't work for me.
Yeah. There's different ways of expressing that too, right? Like you can just this is the royal you. Mm-hmm. You can dismiss something not by saying this is stupid, but by kind of sophistry, by just spitting out a bunch of philosophical psychobabble of like, well, you should really, there's this immoral corruption of some. You sort of get angry and impassioned, and you're trying to come up with a thing, and it's the same idea of saying this is stupid. I'm not saying you do that either. It's just there's multiple ways.
If I want to dismiss something, then I will explicitly say that I'm not going to talk about this. And some people hate that. I know some people hate it. It's like, I'm not talking about this anymore.
You know what's funny about that? That people don't like that. It's like, okay, so do you want to force this person to talk about something that they're just going to be utterly dismissive of? It's like even though, like I was thinking with Calvin, right? With my conversations with him, I was like, I'd really like to continue this conversation with him about this thing. Like, I don't want to just stop talking because he calls it stupid. But then I was thinking, why would I want to talk to the person about this topic they find stupid? So yeah, no, I think you saying, I don't want to talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But generally, I either want to understand where the person's coming from, or I want to understand myself with it. And sometimes I still don't understand myself. Like, I still don't fully understand why I dislike organ donations. But I just really don't like it. And it was weird to me. So, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with a friend of two mutual friends of ours and two people they play with. And I'm playing this horrible little fairy. And they're true neutral. So their morality is that of a fairy, which makes them kind of awful to be around. And at one point, they had a curse cast on them. And she basically had to see the rest of the world as her prey. And dark elves attacked her party. And she threw a fireball at the party. And it just so happened to hit the dark elf. And so that was like my excuse to follow through this. And then she proceeded to eat the dark elf because it's her prey. And I was thinking about it, I was like, I actually have no problem with this because it's not cannibalism. But if she was eating another fairy, or if it's a dark elf eating a dark elf, that'd revile me. But I was like, I wouldn't even have as much of a problem with like an elf eating a human as much as a human eating a human. And so I was like, what? Why do I think that?
There's also...
And it might just come down to the predisposition to it's a good survival mechanism not to eat humans because... So one of the things that people will say is... So you say, don't do cannibalism because it destroys DNA.
Yeah.
And they'll retort to you, oh, that's only in prions, and a very small amount of the population has prions. However, cannibalism actually makes prions appear in people. It's the cause of it. They don't just, oh, this population happened as prions and they're cannibals. No, they've been practicing cannibalism long enough that now prions are endemic in their population.
Yeah, that's how mad cow disease started.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, there just happened to be prions. Like, no, it literally creates prions. When you do cannibalism, your cells go, what the heck? And the cell that you eat in sometimes goes, you know what? I'm escaping. And it unfolds itself. And then you have a prion in your system. And your body can't deal with it. They're impossible to deal with. And it will kill you.
Kill you in nasty ways.
Yeah. And there's also the potential, like, the prions we know of only spread through... eating other things with it. But...
The deer have prions, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Some deer have prions, and we don't know everything we could about them. I was talking to a friend who happens to research in this field, like not prions specifically, but it covering his field. And he was saying, we know way more than we used to about them, and what we know makes them not as scary and a lot more scary. And I was like, oh, what do you mean by that? It's like, well... We know several things about them. Like, all the prions that we've categorized now, you can touch them. Like, you could put your hand in the cow's brain that's infected with prions and you'd be fine. We used to think that even gloves won't protect you from that. It's like, it'll just go through the glove and it'll affect you. Like, the most dangerous thing in the world to research. Like, no, they're perfectly fine to research. What's scary about them, that made it more scary, is those are the prions we know. And all that we know about prions, all the research does, suggests to us that prions could exist that could float freely in the environment that we could accidentally create, and then they could just infect people with, like, out having to eat them. Or a cow could have prions, and one of the prions could change and make it far worse. And it's just, it's like, there are these really nasty things, and so you really should avoid cannibalism. But I don't know, like, it could be my disposition genetically, like, cannibalism's bad.
Yeah, so in this...
And then... I could be trying to find something moral in it.
So you post hoc justification. Yeah. And it doesn't even mean that's a bad process to do. Sometimes your gut reaction is where you should start and then figure out where does this come from.
Yeah, and so I've still been trying to figure out why do I not like organ donation.
So what I'm getting at is you can have these jump to conclusion things that happen. And you can even say stuff like, that's stupid, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Calvin says that's stupid to me. And what I would say... And that, to me, is a conversation I'm happy to have. I would say something like, okay, why is that stupid? Force the person to figure out what their own thoughts are. Explore it, right? And that's what Gray, I think, specifically said he wished he had done, because he would normally do that too. It's just, sometimes you don't always think of that on the moment. So that didn't happen, and it's something they decided they didn't want to deal with, and so Kitty went away and thought about it, I guess, and decided, okay, I want people to be polite when they're on my show, and so I'm removing him from the show. I don't think that's the right order of operations.
Yeah.
And so I said that, and we'll see where that goes. But I think maybe this is where it ties in, is you realize you've done something nasty, right? You've struggle sessioned someone, and that person has also been a jerk to your friend, and your friend might be hurt now, and your friend's, let's say, a delicate person, or not. I don't think he's that delicate, the guy that they were worried about getting hurt, right? But you know, it's not yourself you're worried about another person getting hurt, which makes it even more confusing and ugly, right?
Yeah, that's continue.
Well, I can give you an example maybe that you'd be sympathetic to. Let's say I have a friend who's terrified of bears, right?
Yeah.
And you won't stop talking about bears in their presence, and I'm like, whoa, hey, and you just keep going on and on about bears, and I'm the one that arranged this thing, and I'm just forcing my friend to go through this trauma of bears that, you know, devoured their children or something, and I'm just like, whoa, cool it, and so I sort of feel this responsibility on myself of traumatizing my friend when they weren't expecting that to happen, something like that. So I do think you can feel bad on behalf of others, potentially.
Yeah, trauma is difficult because people have their own psychological things going on. But
right, so you need to meet and deal with your trauma, right? But
yeah, I don't like speaking for people.
But you need to, speaking for, that's the thing, yes.
Yeah, that's my problem. I don't like speaking for people. I don't like making assumptions of how someone feels.
So the friend should say, whoa, please don't talk about bears to me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but there is trauma and various different levels of things, and some people are delicate, but...
Well, no. To clarify with the delicacy thing, right? This is important. It's okay to have areas that are bad, and you do need to get exposure to them so you can deal with them, but that needs to be voluntary exposure.
Yeah.
It is not a good thing to just have people smacking you with a truck when you need to be lifting like 1 pound weights.
Yes.
Exposure needs to be voluntary.
Yeah.
So do not discredit your own delicateness and vulnerability. And maybe it's something you'll never be able to fix fully, but that doesn't mean that you should endure torture because you think it makes you stronger. It won't. Yeah. You need to seek out things that make you stronger, not just endure someone torturing you by accident even. But yeah, speaking on behalf of someone else, that's the key thing there. Yeah,
that's what I was iffy about.
Yeah. So, but from your perspective, you might still feel bad for creating this meeting in the first place, even if you're not speaking on behalf or something. You're like, I just put my friend in an awkward situation, and then maybe they weren't good enough to speak up for themselves, and now they're hurting.
Yeah.
And that should be their problem, but you're taking it on yourself anyways. And so you have this situation, and I think what happens is you're like, okay, I feel really bad right now. And the problem, it's not even a nice bad, like a sharp pain, like a pin. It's like, that's a bad, but it's like, yeah, I can endure that. Yeah, sharp pain. But there's some pains that...
think about that, but like a pin in the hand, you can't endure it. It is, no pain is endurable.
Well, I mean, like, I used to poke pine needles into my lips, like not through them, just like the sharpness.
So, that's not pain. That's like...
Well, but it's like this sharp feeling, right?
Okay, yeah, that sharp feeling. But like
that's what I'm trying to get to with the pinprick.
Okay, yeah, because like...
I'm not talking about like this horrible bleeding injury that needs to be dealt with. Yeah. No, but there's this sort of sick feeling, right? You get these feelings that are sick, and you just want to run and curl up and hide from them.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to feel them. There's no shortcuts. There's no moral system that'll make you feel better. You can't say, okay, I'll do this in the future. You can't self-recriminate to make yourself feel better. You can't blame someone else. You can't blame yourself. You just have to feel it. And it's gross and it's horrible and it lasts way too long. But the only solution really is just to feel the pain.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is you become very creative when you're desperate. And so you're looking, okay, how do I fix it? How do I fix it? If I don't have to deal with that person, then it's fixed.
Yeah.
And so I'll just cut them off, start anew, fresh, we're good. Whew, okay, I'll be a better person now. I don't know if that's what happened. And you know, there could have been all sorts of stuff that happened behind the scenes that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
But I do think from what I saw, and I really wanted you to see it, you know, you have one struggle session with a person, let's say, not even a very bad struggle session, and that person was a jerk once or twice on your show without realizing that you don't like the way they're a jerk. It's like, you do not need to cut each other off. Like, I have done far worse and more to you. Too much I've done to you even. And you to me, I think I could say.
Probably.
And it's like, just sometimes you just gotta be better together and keep moving on.
Yeah.
I told you about one of my close friends got in a fight, like a massive fight with his best friend about a very personal thing to them.
Yeah.
Like basically saying you should have never had your kid. Like you can't really go much lower than that. They got into this huge fight and they're like, okay, yeah, no, I was wrong. I'm sorry. And the other guy's like, yeah, no, I messed up here. And they're still friends. I think
these damn plates are too small.
I think it's a problem with online, potentially, is that it's so easy to connect with people. You also feel like, oh, I can just disconnect, right? So, and
well, you can. You're married to someone, or they're your brother,
yeah,
or whatever. Like, I think marriage, is going to be a better example for this, because marriage with children. So you have a responsibility to the children. One of the few responsibilities that's like equivalent to a responsibility with God.
Yeah.
And you have to get along with the person you're married to. Now you can go if you have an issue with each other, you can go the route that we'll stay married for the children's sakes. No, you won't stay married for the children's sake.
Because then they become the point of resentment.
No.
Your children are forcing you to be with this person you hate.
Yeah. You will figure out how you can live your life with that person. And maybe he snores on his back and you want to smother him with a pillow.
Yeah. And you will figure out a solution to that.
Yeah, sleep in different rooms.
Sleep in a different house.
Yeah. Oh, I just have to bear with it. Oh, I just have to bear with it for sake of children. I have to bear with it because I want to be in good marriage. I want to have this covenant with God. I promise that I marry them. I'm not going to break it. I'll have to bear with it. No, you have deal with it.
Yeah, so bring up the Stoic example again. It's cold out. The non-Stoic complains. The false Stoic doesn't mention the cold. The real Stoic puts on a coat.
Yeah.
They control what they can and are aware of what they can't control.
Yes.
And you say, okay, you don't just have to put up with that person snoring. You can say, okay, can we go to a sleep apnea doctor? Maybe I'll try wearing earplugs. Can we sleep in separate rooms? Can you try sleeping on your side? And, you work with your partner because your partner doesn't want you to hate them either.
Yeah.
They don't want you to be resentful. So they'll say, okay, I'll try this. Maybe I'll lose a bit of weight because that often can make you snore. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll be a slide sleeper, a stomach sleeper. I'll, just keep working together. Mm-hmm. And that act of working together through your contempt of each other. You don't want to be in contempt of someone, but you can't deny it if it's there, right? Like I said, you have to feel your emotion to know where you are, and then you can move on from there.
I really hate your stupid laugh. It's like every time your father-in-law's over and you bray like a donkey. And
yeah, so now that's not how you approach that.
No.
But you can feel that for sure. Mm-hmm. And you approach that with smallest possible thing.
Yeah.
Can be tricky there. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, look, I don't like your laugh when your relatives are visiting. Can I go on a camping trip with my buddies whenever your relatives visit?
Sorry, your father-in-law's over. That means whenever my own dad's over, you pray like a donkey.
Yeah. So when my parents are visiting I'm going to go on a camping trip with my buddies. Okay? Like, if that's the smallest possible solution you can come up with.
Yeah.
Or you're not allowed to tell jokes while they're here. Well, no, you say, can you not tell jokes while they're here? Or you try to come up with something.
Yeah.
And what Kelvin said when I was telling him about this, he's a young guy, but he was saying, it feels too robotic and fake. And I was thinking about that, and it's like, yeah, it feels very fake to get what you ask for. Like,
well,
it feels weird. Like, it's too easy, right?
Yeah, so...
You want to be surprised by the world.
Yeah, in book... in 12 More Rules for Life, he gives some really interesting relationship advice for people already in a relationship, which is, he's saying there has to be romance in a relationship. Like, you have to go on dates and do things. But it's like, we haven't dated for like... We're in marriage for like 10 years.
And we haven't gone on a date
in 6 years.
Yeah.
So ask your wife out on a date and have her agree to it. Like, you want this marriage to work. So ask her out, have a date. And your date is going to be awful.
Yeah.
It is going to be terrible. A ton of stupid stuff will happen during it. Yeah. Like, you're going to be like adolescents again. You have to learn how to date each other again until it becomes natural.
And I think he's also talked about this, like, you might have to schedule sex or schedule a date.
Yeah.
Like, we will have a date every Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not romantic. And it's like,
or the other thing's like, when I do something, can you give me a compliment? It's like asking someone to give you a compliment.
Yeah, it's the most robotic feeling thing ever. But what you're doing is you're saying there's no magic in the world if you don't read my mind.
Yeah.
And because there's nothing greater than an unexpected surprise that is good. Like Breath of the Wild for me. Like, there's a lot of games I love, right? Like Age of Wonders 3. Absolutely love that game. But I'd been following the game's entire development. I knew their previous games. I knew I loved their previous games. I saw everything they were going to do. I knew I was going to like this game. I don't like Zelda games. And I didn't play Breath of the Wild for like 2 years. You had it. And I was just like, oh, he got that Zelda game. He likes Zelda. Yeah. And then I played it and I was like, how does this game exist and no one's told me about it? How have I never heard of this game? Why is no one talking about this game? I don't know how I missed it. Everyone was talking about the game. But getting even if Tears of the Kingdom is everything I ever want it to be, it still will never be able to replicate that feeling.
Yeah.
But if I could go to Aonuma now and say, hey, can you just redo Breath of the Wild story exactly, but with your Tears of the Kingdom world? I'd be asking, there'd be no magic there, right?
Mm.
I wouldn't be getting something unexpected and new, but I would be getting exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel natural, and it feels
stiff.
Yeah, what are you pursuing? It's like you're pursuing, but you know the thing about those miraculous moments of this sharp, sparkling, like, yes, this person gets me and they gave me this thing I wanted, and so I'll never ask for anything because they can read my mind just right. There's a sort of manic pixie girl sort of element to it.
Yeah.
And the manic pixie girl has always had a bit of a saccharine edge to me, like this sort of sick falseness of it. I don't know exactly what it reminds me of, but it's like this feeling of staying up really late and that adrenaline rush and that excitement, but you're not really living. You feel like you're living, but okay, you know what it is? It's Dresden versus Michael.
Yeah, it's destiny. How was it? It's one is something amazing you have no control over. It just happens. It's like random chance, lucky chance versus making a good life. Continue with your Michael Dresden.
It's funny you said Destiny, because Destiny the streamer very clearly to me looks like a guy living off of adrenaline. He loves getting to these contentious debates. He stays up late. He's constantly playing games, constantly stimulating himself. He's in polyamorous relationships. He's constantly getting into like big drama fights with people and splitting up with creators and saying, oh, this person backstabbed me. It reminds me a lot of myself when I was in Victoria, where I was...
You were in polyamorous relationships?
No, but I was in this state of like hyperactive, I just need the next thing to distract me and keep me alive and keep me going, keep me moving. And like I was trying to out-manipulate psychopaths and stuff. And, I'm pretty good with words. I can do it. But it's like, that's not a life. You're just living off a high.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, you know what? So Dresden versus Michael. Dresden's got this exciting life where stuff just happens to him, and he's got Susan, this beautiful woman that just bursts into his life and then leaves and bursts into his life. It's not a really environment to raise his daughter in. And Michael has like 6 kids, and he's raised them all in this beautiful home, and he's this unwavering force that they can always rely on. And everyone looks to Michael, even though Dresden lives the more exciting life with there's this sudden amazing high. There's a deep current to Michael and it's not even like you can live a life that's all in the middle, or you can live a life that has really big highs and lows. It's not even that, because Michael's highs are higher.
Yeah. Because
he's got this deep current within him of faith and power.
Yeah.
And it makes every moment, those highs that Dresden feels. Now Dresden, this isn't very fair to Dresden because he's a very thoughtful, deep person himself. But for the purpose of but his relationship with Murphy is a great relationship. But with Susan, it's more like he's chasing these sparkles off in the distance to get a taste of what Michael feels every day.
Yeah.
Even on Michael's worst day, when he's feeling horrible and sad, he's got this undercurrent of this wonder that Dresden can only glimpse through these sparkles of the manic pixie dream girl in his life.
Yeah.
until Dresden gets into much more healthy relationships with people like Murphy and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if I had been cursed, because our guidance counselor, well, mine anyways, I don't know if you had the same one, but to graduate from our high school, they had this component where you had to give them like a 5-year plan and say what you were going to do with your life and say what your job was going to be. And because there was this idea that schools don't even teach you how to do taxes, they just abandon you and then you're out in the world.
Yeah, so see, I'll tell you my experience, because I can sound, we had that project, we were told to do it. Everyone did in our class, kind of, and it sort of just fizzled out, and then it wasn't a part of it. Like, we said, basically, start grade 12, all the grade 12 students were gathered, like, you're going to do this plan as us, do this whole thing. Then nothing ever came of it.
Yeah, so we actually had to have ours signed off to graduate.
Yeah.
And so the idea was that the school wasn't going to abandon you. They were going to teach you how to do taxes, teach you how to budget. They were going to have your career lined up, your next 5-year plan lined up. And so you wouldn't be abandoned. But how they did that in practice was just, here's a homework assignment for you to do on your own. So it wasn't actually... So I was finishing mine up on like the last day possible before I'd not be able to graduate. And so he called me in. And he said, okay, you haven't filled out the section about what you want your career to be. What do you want your career to be for the future? And because they didn't actually, give us any useful information on how to live, it just became another homework assignment to make life even harder rather than to make it easier when you graduate. I was like, I have no idea. But I didn't say that because I wanted to graduate, and I didn't see it as, because from his point of view, it's probably like, hey, you need help? Like, I'll help you out, right? But high school trains you so much to, it's not about, hey, I'm having troubles with this. Can you teach me how to do this? It's so much, I need to do this right so I can pass the class, right?
Yeah.
It's gotten totally flipped, the whole mechanism. And so I wasn't saying...
And Mr. Bisson was an amazing teacher.
So I wasn't saying, oh, I have no idea what to do. I said to him, just head going crazy, think of something. So I said, I want to be a suicide prevention person.
Yeah.
And so he said, oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay. And so I think he was an evil genie who cursed me, because I think back then I could have been a suicide prevention person. I could have manipulated people into not, with your parents will be sad and just different things like, well, you might get a raise tomorrow at work. There's a lot of different things you can do, right? Because suicide is very, there's a lot of build up to it typically, but the person, they still need to jump off that final ledge, literally sometimes. There's that final push you need in the moment.
So I'm just...
Phrasing.
Yeah, you're also just making me think of the comic.
But you need a spark in the moment. You need the motivation to do it just for that moment, right? And all you have to do to prevent someone from committing suicide is interrupt them in the moment.
Yeah.
You just need to say, hey, whoa, what are you doing there? And the people that are jumping off a building or a bridge, someone will grab them and then the person will stop and break down crying. Because all they wanted was someone to stop them a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or they just need that moment of clarity of getting stopped, or they just need that interruption in their train of thought, like, whoa. But the thing is, so you can do that as a bad suicide prevention person, or maybe that's a good one, and then the follow-up is a different story. But you haven't solved that person's problems.
No.
You've just given them a chance to work on them, which is maybe good on its own, but that's probably all I would have done. And if I had messed up ever, it would have destroyed me. Like, that's because you're not going to win every one, right? Yeah. When you're suicide prevention or a doctor or a police officer, you're not going to win every one. And I think that would have destroyed me. And so I think what happened was the curse was something like, you will become the person who can handle the failure, and you will become the person who can prevent the suicide properly without manipulating them. And I don't know, maybe the curse won't end until you have prevented one suicide and have actually fulfilled your purpose, or so. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I feel like there was a dark curse there, which somehow relates to this, I'm sure. But yeah, so they kicked him out, or they removed him at least from the Discord. I don't know if they kicked him out permanently. I saw him in the chat today on a video, so. But he was in a hidden account. It's just I'm a stalker. Well, no, it's not that I'm a stalker. It's just I can figure this stuff out, right? Like I can find your alt account pretty easily.
There's a tool to do that, actually.
There's a bunch of tools, but I it's just a simple like, oh, you change your profile picture and this account that was created today has the same profile picture and bing bang boom.
Yeah.
It's not even like I was trying. I just put two and two together. And I hope that all goes good. But I think like 2 weeks from now, they will have very different thoughts about the situation, and they will be able to approach it with much clearer heads and say what they want, and things will be different. But that story was just illustrative of the thing they will have to do, I guess, is feel whatever emotions there are about it. Maybe it's positive for everyone. Like I said, I can't read their minds, right? But just running from them, you'll just make your world smaller and smaller and smaller, and it'll fizzle out. Yeah. I don't know. It all tied back at some point, so if you're listening, you can do the work yourself. You see, what we're doing, I want to cultivate big brains in people that are listening, right? So...
Do you really?
Quite, I'm justifying. So, I have given you all the pieces to complete the thought, and by completing that thought, you will engage in critical thinking, and your brain will grow, and you will be made wiser. And so this whole format is a clever design to embiggen the brains of anyone who happens to listen. Never made a mistake. It was all purposeful. And that's not just me being an inability to deal with the disappointment of my own inability to keep track of myself.
I don't think you need to keep track of conversations, and I don't think that they're beginning.
No, there is a spirit within the conversation itself that is understood beyond the words that are said. And so your thoughts do not have to be a well-written essay in order for the meaning to get across. And in many cases, the rambling, meandering path actually gives you a much wider view of what the person is trying to say.
Yes.
And a deeper understanding, because you have to approach that understanding yourself.
Yeah.
And if you read a book where someone tries to write like that, you get maps of meaning and it's a nightmare. But if they speak like Jordan Peterson, he's great to listen to talk, but his first book sucks. The second book and third book he really brushed it up. But
did you read the third one?
Not yet. No, I've got like a 440 book backlog right now.
Okay.
Which is better than the 500 it was at.
Yeah, it's just the fourth one. Sorry, the third book really deals with talking about resentment, because he's a man that had every right to be resentful.
I think I saw this question. It was, what was the thing that destroys society more than anything? And someone said trauma, like unprocessed trauma. And I think you could kind of include resentment within that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah.
It might be like seed oils. Seriously, because you know it's crazy, right? You can get all these good mind stuff. You can get all this stuff to help you think good, like you can do all this philosophy and morality and whatnot. But like I said about how stuff is so hard when you're in pain, right?
Yeah.
The natural state of yourself when you're not in pain is also more moral and wise and philosophical. Yeah. Like if let's say we got rid of seed oils, it could be that everyone just becomes like a saint.
I was looking at this bit of footage is on Twitter, and someone is recolorized footage of a guy buying a newspaper in New York, and they said what happened. That was just what was posted. I'm looking at this, and so all the men, you could say, look very similar. They kind of look like you right now, but without a beard. It's like their hairdo. They have all that slick back hairdo, and like all the men had like very similar dress, very similar fashion. But I looked at all these people, and I was like, in today's society, we would rate every single person in this footage as a 7 and up in attractiveness. As a majority of these people, they are all really good-looking people.
Yeah, well, I saw this debate where people were... I don't know if you've heard about this. There's Barbie movie?
Yeah.
One of the lead actress, Margot Robbie, I think's her name. Yeah. And there's been a bit of a debate about people saying she's just kind of average attractiveness, and people saying she's the most beautiful woman on earth, right?
Yeah.
And I watched an interview with her, and I thought, I mean, she's got good skin,
yeah,
but she's not as good looking as most people I know.
Yeah.
And on the Stable Diffusion Reddit, I see people saying, can we get models that make realistic looking humans? I don't want all these supermodel looking humans. And I look at the supermodel looking humans and I think, those look kind of like normal people. And then they say, finally, real looking people. And they put like goblins and trolls and horrible lumpen monsters with misshapen flesh. They're like, look, a normal person.
So in high school, most of the girls in my grade, I think, like, I could say because there's most of them, they were average, but they're actually all fairly attractive people. But they're fairly attractive would be like stable diffusion when you produce it, and it's just like the unrealistic, so to say, one. That's what they all looked like.
Yeah.
Like all these high school girls, like 18, 19, 17. I was at that age at the time too.
All these attractive high school girls. Go on.
Yes. They're all very good looking.
Yes.
Now, I've seen pictures of them later on Facebook.
No, I just hate how I said yes there. Sorry.
Yeah, when you're that age, it's not that. And some of them have put on weight.
Yeah.
And they're far less attractive. And some of them haven't put on any weight. And they look basically the same as they did. They're still very attractive people. And that's the same with actually a lot of the guys in my class, is all the guys that were in decent shape, they are all really good looking. And they put on a bit of weight. And they're not as good looking.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to, I was talking to the same guy, Calvin, about this actually. And he was saying, no, she's super attractive. No, just not my type. And then I was like, no, I think she's pretty average looking. And then he said, okay, wait, you know what? I work at a farmer's market. And compared to the average woman at the farmer's market, she's less attractive. So what I'll say is, maybe for the average person, she's attractive. But for a farmer's market, she's just kind of average.
Yeah, well,
because the kind of person that goes to the farmer's market is going to be, probably healthier on average.
I love V's battle with these people. Like, the two layers he does. One is like, oh, you're on that incel.
Yeah.
It's like, he's married.
Yeah.
I mean, he could still be an incel if he's married, but whatever.
More likely to be.
Yeah. But also, it's like, these women aren't realistic. It's like, he lives in Romania. Most of these women that people are saying are realistic are what women look like in his home country. Like,
don't all Romanian women just look like grandmothers with hedge skulls?
No. So, Romania, it falls under the Eastern Europe.
Or do they all look like Carmela from
No. Some of them look like Carmela, but
the Castlevania series?
some of them look like her. Now, let me explain to you how Eastern Europe attractiveness works, all right?
Everyone's a 3 or a 10.
No. So, all the women are super attractive until they hit about 60, and then they turn to babushkas.
They just morph.
Yeah. They shrink down, and they get all saggy. And all the men, throughout their whole life, look like weird goblins in tracksuits.
Yeah. Well, it's like...
Like, even if they're incredibly fit, or not, or if they're fat, they're all weird.
Impa's an Eastern European.
Yes.
She went from like this attractive warrior woman to a giant-headed creature thing.
Yeah, that's really short.
Yeah. That makes sense now.
No,
I would love to... They should make like a biology textbook of Hyrule, because I want to know
why the king is huge and Zelda so small.
Like, for every species.
Yeah.
The king is mass. Like, you look at the fish people, and the king is like a different species. And like in Ocarina of Time, he's a whale, and they're fish people. Like, why is he a whale and they're fish people?
Because he's the king.
And the owl king is like this giant owl, but then the others are just bird people.
Yep.
And when people age, their heads balloon.
Yep.
Except, isn't ravioli... Like, the bird people are really old, right? Or is that the fish people?
The fish people live a really long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the fish people are descendants of the bird people.
Are they?
Yeah. Or the other way around. The bird people are descendants of the fish people or something like that. Yeah. And then the Hyruleans are descendants of goats?
Apparently.
So Tears of the Kingdom is just what Skyward Sword was supposed to be, right? Like, because Skyward Sword, you were able to fly around the sky, but then it was basically just a loading screen where you'd go down to specific points.
Yeah.
And like, it was meant to be the origins of the Sky People, but now the Sky People are actually cool instead of just
Hylians on birds.
Yeah.
Yes, basically.
It's basically, but now they had to make goat ancestors.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird.
They're more alpacas.
I think they got big ears though.
Yeah, alpacas have big ears.
Don't they have like round ears?
Okay, llamas.
No, they have like tall ears. These are pointed ears, like a goat.
Yeah, but they flop outside. That's a palka. And...
Nah, that's a goat with pointed ears.
Okay.
Or maybe an elf.
They're three-eyed goats.
Maybe like a Final Fantasy elf.
Yeah, they're three-eyed goats.
3 eyes?
Yeah, he's got a closed eye on his forehead.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's really creepy.
You know, maybe we didn't play the same game.
Yeah. Maybe I got you like a knockoff copy.
Did you get the machine gun yet?
What? Actually, yes, I have.
I got a laser.
I made a tank.
I got a really annoying shield with a cannon on it. So every time I tried to shield, it's like.
Yeah, no, I built a tank.
Ooh.
And I drove it around and beat an army.
Please tell me. This is a mechanical spoiler, but I just need it, okay?
Yeah.
Like, you know how you mechanically spoiled for me that you could expand your inventory in Breath of the Wild? And you saved me so much pain?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a save and load function?
Yes. But you have to find it.
Because I made the most complex UFO thing ever, and then I was like, I don't want to... why do I have to do this every time?
Yeah, there is a save and load.
Okay. And I also got another spoiler that apparently Robbie gives you the Path of the Hero back.
But I don't know that.
You know the best feature in Breath of the Wild that I bought the DLC just for? It shows you everywhere you've been on the map.
I haven't encountered that yet.
Oh.
I haven't played the quest.
But Robbie, you've met Robbie though.
Yeah.
He's in the starting zone. Well, sort of starting zone.
Yeah, but he hasn't given it to me yet.
Oh, I just heard he can do it. Like,
yeah.
Like I didn't talk to him.
No, he hasn't given to me yet.
I didn't want to talk to anyone because there's a bunch of reading, like a bunch of cutscenes. I was also overwhelmed by like the town. There was so many people to talk to, and they all had names and stories, and I just it was too much. And then there's a cutscene if you want to go underground. It's like, I don't want to deal with a cutscene.
Okay, well,
the cutscenes. You had a point though that I completely interrupted.
What happened?
No idea.
Yeah, I'll leave it there.
All right.